Oops. Whoops. Hang on.
Something.
Where are we? There we
Something.
are.
There we go. There we go. Yes. Good morning. Good evening. Good middle of night for some of you.
We're here.
I'm sure there aren't many of those. I'm sure that's pretty rare. So, but you know, it can happen. It can happen. So yeah. Hi Simon. Good to see you once again. This weekly encounter we have. And
once a week, if I remember rightly.
Once a week, every 168 hours, except twice a year. Yes, when it's 167 or 169. Oh, right. The time zones. Don't get me started on time zones. You know I know way too much.
Oh no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
Oh, just got to say though, I did find that when people are saying PST to mean, oh, shut up.
People were
saying PST to mean West Coast US time. And I say during the summer, no, we don't have PST until November. It turns out there are some Pitcairn Islands that have Pitcairn standard time that actually stay UTC-8 for the entire year. So, yes, there is technically a few places that are on PST right now, but it's this tiny little island with like 40 people under the thing.
A lot of people. I'm not gonna jump. We're not gonna stay on this topic for much longer. But I will mention that we're in BST now, right? British Summer Time, which is not GMT, right? It's GMT +1.
Right.
So.
Right.
That's another one that gives people because it's completely different initials, right? GMT, BST, like what?
Right.
Anyway,
and the letter S there means summer, not standard, which means just the opposite part of the year. Oh yeah. Oh, that's wonderful stuff. Let's move on.
Let's crack on, and we'll go through. We'll do introductions and we'll explain what we're doing today, and get just to start things. Yeah, we'll get on.
Let's do the rules. Let's do the rules. So be nice, everybody. Hang out and chat and be very nice and constructive with each other. Nothing adult, please. This is a G-rated show, or a PG when I start yelling at people, but not bad. Don't spam, don't advertise, don't promote anything. Don't say the same thing over and over again. Especially do not post a question and then 20 minutes later post it again. If you do that, I take it out of the first slot and put it into the second slot, and you've just lost your place in line, and you'll have to wait even longer for our carefully constructed answers. No harassment tolerated. We have a very quick, short leash on that. We will take you out if you're being bad, and that's not a good thing. But above all, have a good time. We have a good time doing this, which is why we keep doing this over and over again. Well, there are many reasons, but that's just kind of the way it is. Yeah.
Let's do some introductions briefly. For those that don't know, my name is Simon Lightfoot. I'm a community leader, CTO at Dev Angels London, and my Twitter is at Dev Angels London. You can follow me there if you like. Randall, introduce yourself.
I am a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert. Been that since the very beginning of their program for that, which means I get to answer lots of people's questions all day, all evening, sometimes right into my sleep schedule. On Dart and Flutter on all the social channels, and I also produce videos, which I did one yesterday that I'm really happy about. I'll tell about that later. But I'm also, for this show, I am the question magician, which means that my job is to watch the chat for a phrase that starts with Q colon. If you put a Q colon in front, I will add it to our queue of questions to answer. So we have a live show right now. There are a number of people here. There's always a number of people because it's always a number. I mean, 2 is a number, right? So there are a number of people.
A lot more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, more than that. But if you're watching this via tape delay or whatever, come back on it live. It's a lot of fun to sit here and get your questions answered. We love the questions. That's why we're here. So enjoy. Yeah, I think that introduces you and me. Right.
Yeah, and not to forget, you can get your questions in the chat with a queue in front of them, and you get the queue. We have a couple of guests with us today. First of all, John's out. Well, John's becoming a series regular. Let's introduce John.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been like a month plus, I think, here. So Howdy. Great to be here. Yep. So for those that don't know who I am, I'm John Weezy. I'm with Microsoft. I do work on our Android platform work that we do, which includes some Flutter work, and been doing this stuff here, helping out in the community for, well, since the early days, way back when. And for some reason, Simon and Randall keep asking me to come on. So.
And also, you're helping out the community, doing the helping manage the Flutter community medium, which I have to say
correct.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So keep the articles coming. I go in there pretty much every day and see what we got, and try and publish at least one a day if we have stuff. So.
It's always good to kind of keep that content kind of rolling and having a place where people in communities go to get that kind of the latest content or just, generally just having that Flutter news, basically, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it helps, a lot of people are writing these in their own medium and, probably don't have the following that Flutter community has. So if they have an interesting article that meets our criteria, we'll definitely look at it and republish it.
That'd be awesome. Right. We do have another guest, David. He's going to be joining us later on. We're going to do a code review. He's kindly submitted his code for us to barrage with questions and work through. And it's also going to be my first time playing around with AppWrite, which is the backend system that it's working with. So we'll have a play around with that later. And as we said, get your questions in the chat. I know some have already coming in. So just say, you need to put Q in front of it for us to pick it up. We can just have it. Do we have any questions at the moment, Randall?
Oh, we got a couple. Oh, you mean I'm supposed to do that now? Oh, darn it. Okay. Hold on.
No, I can do it. There you go.
Okay, there you go.
Magic.
You know the buttons better than I do.
We're just going to jump straight into some of these. Get going. We're trying to keep. We're going to try and keep the Q&A bit to this very beginning part of the show. So if you want to get your questions and get them in now, and then so we can spend some time with the code review piece today without running too far over our scheduled time.
Yeah. Right.
Right. Yeah. We'll see how that goes. All right. Lawrence says, is there a good simple scripting language / Dart embed to control the sprites and actions of game avatars? E.g., an avatar might be a cloud, and the user script loads the weather and it shows rain. That's interesting. Oh,
sorry.
Oh. Jumping ahead.
Jumping ahead. There.
I hate that scroll view scrolls right while you're trying to click on something. It's really annoying. Not good design.
I mean, this is like most things, right? The simple scripting language like Lua script is quite popular. You can also use JavaScript. That's more complicated beast and is a lot more expensive in terms of space, in terms of distribution of your app or game or whatever. I don't know if Lua script has any someone's done Dart bindings. So
is there a reason for needing some other script? I mean, if you're doing it, say in Flutter using Flame, you could just do that right in your code as Dart.
The thing is, right, if you want it to be dynamic, you can do that, right? But then if you want to control it via script, something like in scripting where you can kind of add and remove, like make dynamic changes without recompiling, maybe, or even if it's server downloaded scripts, right? I
guess. I mean, the example he's giving, right? If an avatar might be a cloud, right? So you've got a cloud, and you want to add raining, some sort of an overlay that shows rain versus sun versus whatever, right? So, I mean, to me, in a game, that's just you're just programming, in Dart. In the case of Flutter and Flame, the different changes and things that happen. But
when it comes to scripting languages, Lua's quite a popular one, and that's the one I was just talking about here. So I just searched Lua and see what comes up, and we've got Lua virtual machine written in Dart. That's nice, which implements Lua 5.3 version.
Oh, yeah,
that's really nice. All right, so I've never used it before. I'm not, but the fact that the whole VM is written in Dart means that there you go. So here's an example here, right? Load libraries, and then you can load this Lua script and it'll interpret that, and then you can
run it. Yeah.
Run it. So that's pretty cool, right? The fact that you can actually wait a second.
Yeah.
Wait
He's saying it's a user-provided script. He responded saying it's a user-provided script. So
yeah, which would mean that something like this. This is am I missing something here that apparently get content that row new, children this, gesture this. He's actually written. He's actually made it so you can write Flutter UI in Lua. Oh my god,
that's what it looks like. Yeah.
I mean, it's one way of doing it, but to be honest, though, like having something like Lua scripting that can be run directly in Dart's great. But I don't know, like there's other libraries in there, right? So
yep.
We just pop that back open for a second. Yeah, so you can see there's that one. There's Lua VM. There's Flutter Lua. There's a Dart Lua down here as well. Another Figari Lua. So just evaluate all the ones that you think, evaluate the packages, see which one. I mean, that's if you want to use Lua, right? There's also JS. If you look for JS, you'll find stuff that embeds the I can't remember the name of it. Is it SeaMonkey from FireScript? I think there's also one for V8 from Google.
Yeah, there's a V8 one.
No, SpiderMonkey. Is it SpiderMonkey?
No, SpiderMonkey is the patching thing. The thing that can patch your code. Yeah. Lua, by the way, means moon in Portuguese. That's where the name came from. Just random trivia. Sorry, I just came back. Here I am with random trivia.
I am correct. It is SpiderMonkey. Yeah, apparently. Mozilla's JavaScript and WebAssembly engine for Firefox, Servia, and various others. So I don't know if there's an embed for that, but again, it says you can embed it into C++ and Rust projects, which means it just exports C runtime, which means you can use FFI in Dart to control it. But again, do you want to? I don't know if there's a package. Just for a quick look. Thing is, it's like how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? I don't see a package called the SpiderMonkey. You can go evaluate whatever you want, but I feel like something simple. There's another one you can actually do. There's a package called Petite Parser on Dart on Pub, and with that you can actually generate your own little syntax. So that's another option if you want to restrict it. But to be honest, probably sticking with something like Lua, which is a really basic syntax and it gives you the basic sort of scriptable logical routines, is probably a good idea. Hopefully that helps, Lawrence. I think we'll move on to more questions.
Move on to the next one, which we thought we'd get more of these last week.
Yeah,
we had Remy on.
So making up for it, apparently.
Yeah, so which is better for state management? The answer is
whichever state management works for you.
Whichever works for you, yeah. Although we have our opinions on that first one in that list about how great that one is to use. But
I mean, to be honest, the thing here is like if you were to give me the two, it'd be block. And there would always be that out of that as something else. But I think the key here is we said this before, be consistent with your state management. Don't just put 5 different state management things in there, mix between them. It's really confusing. Yeah, don't do that.
And possibly won't be useful. It possibly breaks things.
Well, you just overcomplicate.
You gotta what's going to work for you, but make sure you understand it, right? I mean, the problem that most of us have with GitX is it just hides everything from you. So if you have an issue, good luck, because it's probably buried someplace that you can't. You're going to have to do something to fix it. Whereas Block or Riverpod or something's a little bit more out in the open for you and doesn't hide all the innards from us. So that's, I think, just something to be aware of.
On a recent project, I migrated them. It was a mature project already in the stores that had about 30 or 40 providers. So the legacy classic package provider.
Right.
And they wanted to migrate to Riverpod because there were a lot more features for it. And also it's the, by the way, provider is in maintenance mode. Nothing more is being done on it except for emergency fixes because of security. That's the only reason they're going to get any changes. All the new features are going in Riverpod. So even Remy himself suggests that you just ignore provider and use Riverpod for all the new stuff. But anyway, so I was migrating them, and it took a lot of extra work to have both provider and Riverpod live at the same time. But I managed to do it in such a way that I could migrate one of their providers at a time, and it all worked. And because you got naming conflicts, you've got technology conflicts.
Well,
they try to wake up differently. Do we have a question?
I have that exact same issue right now in one of my apps, Randall. I've been halfway through migrating from provider to Riverpod, so I've got that two things going all over the place that I got to kind of maintain.
The biggest problem is importing both of them, because they both define provider and consumer.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out how to get the right things. I ended up building a shim that renamed 35 of the symbols in provider to be the same names with an X on the end. And so then I changed the code base so everything was X on the end, which made it easy then to figure out what still needed to be done, because anything that ended in X obviously didn't belong there anymore. It was X parrot. Yes, it had to be gone away. It's doable, but it requires somebody who has a lot of experience with Dart.
It just occurred to me. I wonder if you could do that and then mark those new type defs as deprecated. So then you would get the deprecation warnings across your code base.
Oh.
You actually don't need that. It turns out that if you just look for one of them, it will take you directly to all the places being used, and then you fix those one at a time. So you don't need to mark. I did that for a little while. I marked. In fact, that's how I found all those names. Is I first put in. I need to write this up for like a Medium article or something. But what I did is I first put in a transparent shim that I got rid of all the imports of provider and only imported my shim. And it did nothing except export provider. So that meant it was neutral to do that change. Once I got all the file names changed, I then changed the name of provider, renamed it to be provider X. And then that immediately changed all the way through the system. And then I added one by one a type def for each of those and renamed the type defs as I was adding them. And it was a long process. It was a very long process.
I can't imagine
wrong.
I was going to say I can't imagine what we did before we had type aliasing.
Before type aliasing, and before an IDE that could say this particular name that says consumer needs to be renamed everywhere. That's referring only to this line.
But it has to be. It's not just the name, though. His thing. It's not just like the fine
scoping
place.
Yeah,
it's the scope of that symbol which matters.
Right.
Anyway,
right. It was pretty amazing.
What's the best practice of migrating from basic code base to using state management? Like whatever.
Yeah.
The point here is, I think you. I mean, I don't think there's any like best practices. I mean. It depends on what you're migrating to, and as we just said, like I think the example that Randall just gave about a shim layer or something that gets you halfway, so you're setting yourself up so that you can migrate as you go, so you can have both for a period of time. That's probably the best approach, depending on how large your state management is.
Yeah, start with something simple. I mean, pick a piece of state that you want to manage that's fairly small and reasonable, and if it's just a single value or something, start with that. Implement it, get it working, and see how it all works before you start trying to dive into more complex.
Oh, and did I mention they also injected about 20 different classes with get it on top of that? And I migrated them out of that too. So I was like, okay, there's nothing wrong with get it, by the way. Get it is a different package completely from get. And get it is a great injector if what you need is some way to rendezvous with a class that you might want to substitute out during testing. That's great. But Riverpod does that very easily as well. So there's no reason to have both Riverpod and get it in the same project. So
right. I got some to add to this next question. So Roberto, long-time viewer, says, does PageView have the ability to resize itself depending on the size of the content? The answer is no. Sadly not. In fact, there's a few widgets that I really dislike the fact that they don't enable you to do this. There's reasons why they don't do this, and that is there's no guarantee that every child of a page view would be the same size.
Yeah.
So you kind of get this kind of like you could go to the next page, it's slightly larger, and it's slightly smaller, and it's slightly larger, and so it wouldn't feasibly work. However, what you can do is some UI tricks. So things like you have your page view fill, and then you put a center as your child to that, or whatever alignment you want, and then you put your whatever child inside that. So you still go between pages, but the pages are essentially, the content looks smaller than it actually is, and will still like swipe across the screen or something. There's now a pad ends by default on page view, which means you can now have padding on the left, it will center and things like that, which is really helpful. I feel like there is times though when I have wanted this, where, you know, to have multiple bits of content size a container, and it's super, it was just super difficult, super annoying to do, to be frank. You definitely can't do it with recycling views, and recycling views, this is even on Android or any of the platforms, because generally you just don't know the size of content before it comes onto the screen, or just before it comes onto the screen. So it's not like you can calculate the size of 1,000 widgets, right? And then go, okay, now my widget's going to be this big because that's the biggest of all of those 1,000 widgets, right? It's not going to happen. And normally don't want content jumping around the screen. Like as content changes, it's kind of off-putting to the user.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you could do something. You could do something magical. Like there are ways to do this. Don't get me wrong. Like there are hacky solutions, and there are actually correct solutions to this problem. One is we showed this actually a couple of was it? Yeah, I think it was in Humpday Q&A. A couple of like somewhere over the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, something. I'd show how custom scroll view works. So you use like scrollable with a viewport. We did that, didn't we, together? It was 3 of us.
Yeah, it was either last week or the week before, I think. Maybe 2 weeks ago.
At the very end of the show, we did that. And what's interesting, you can do that. And what you can do is use, you can have a custom, you can make yourself a little custom render object. So go see Craig's recent videos on this, and have it measure the intrinsic width and intrinsic height. In fact, you can do this as well with a global key. You can get the context from the global key. You can get the context for the widget, get its render object, and then call compute intrinsic width and compute intrinsic height on that widget. That gives you its sort of size it wants to be, and then you could then have that report back to the list view, and then have the list view change its, or not list view, page view, have it wrapped in a size box that changes its size. But again, I don't see how that would be really kind of desirable. I mean, there's ways of doing it. I think you should come on the show sometime, and we could like look at some of these things. That might be fun.
Yeah.
You
have some code review. Another code review.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll see how this one goes today before we make any commitment to any other ones.
I'm curious. Have you guys ever had sort of these problems where you're trying to do some layout and some complex behavior of layout, and you just can't you get competing parts of your layout and you can't get them to work together, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what Boxy is for. Boxy's the universal solution to that.
I think they're the kind of things that when you run into those situations, you should be thinking, can custom multi-child layout or custom single-child layout do the job I want it to do? And if they can't, start looking at a render object. Now, render objects can just be a render proxy box, which basically means you don't have to implement anything apart from like paint or layout, and you can get away with like a lot of you can do a lot of things with well, you can do all the normal framework widgets are done like that, right? So you have full flexibility to lay out and constrain your widgets however you want. But yeah, so when you have competing constraints or behaviors in your UI, it's not very often that you can't achieve what you want to do without one of those 3 options. But
again, I'm going to say, if you're at the point where you're programming your own custom render objects and things like that, just go look at Boxy. I'm putting the chat link in there. Yeah. Done by a very smart person, actually one of the admins for the Flutter Discord. and he really understands how to get in there and do the right thing. It's like the classic example is, I want the row height in a row to be dominated by a particular widget. Whatever height that widget is, I want the rest of the widgets to be that height as well. You can do that trivially with this package. That's what it's designed to do. So check it out.
Cool. All right, let's carry on, I guess. Next question.
Yep.
They're
different.
React and Flutter. Developer experience, because I want it right.
One's React and using JavaScript, and the other is Flutter using a real language. Right.
You come to the wrong place to get officially opinionated, a non-opinionated viewpoint.
Right. You walked into a Ford dealer saying, "How good is a Chevy?" You don't do that. You don't do that. It doesn't make any sense.
You're not going to get the answer you want. To be honest, I've never built React as a full app, React app, so I couldn't give you an answer for this. There's so much
never
content.
have to. Hope to never have
but
to.
But here's the point: there's so much content, right? And there's so many people in the Flutter community that have come from React or have used React in some fashion that you could get your answers to this question. And you said you want to have the right guide for this and to know the difference between them. There's a lot of examples of people talking about this on Medium and YouTube and various places.
Except there is a daily posting just about, with the attention-grabbing headline, which is better, React or Flutter? And it seems now that lately they've been ChatGPT written. So they're completely trashed, because if it reads, just skip down to the last paragraph, it says, in conclusion, just delete that. Just go on to the next thing, because those are always useless. In conclusion, that last paragraph, I have to remember not to ever say that anymore, because now that's what shows up at the end of every ChatGPT.
As far as I know, there's a big swarm of automated videos, people generating video content with all these kind of things, and then it's problematic. Anyway, let's let the specific kind of cover a point here that you're talking about React Flutter on web, and I'm guessing you're talking about React, not React Native, but React on web. And it's interesting you talk about this because, again, are you building a website? Are you building a web app? Right. We said this before. And to be honest, if you're already using Dart, just use Flutter for web. That, and you can develop that as a desktop-based product first, and then you just run it on web for the most part, right? Obviously you have to deal with each platform and its quirks or its specifics, but that's what you're going to get with any solution like this. Anyway, right, moving on. Can we write a performance code editor?
Is this an editor for performance code, or is this a code editor that performs well?
I'm not getting
either of those yet. And I don't know
with
what
or without
code editor with Flutter. Wait, why are you writing a code editor with Flutter?
Well, so what do you? Is it writing a code editor to run in the web?
I'm also is this also a code editor written in Flutter to write WASM? I don't know.
So a code editor with good performance.
Well, yes. Sure.
It'll have good performance. Yeah.
So there's actually several of these. First of all, you talk about performance of an editor. That's all. Okay. I'm gonna cut this out. All syntax highlighted editors, like code editors, are difficult, right? To pass out that syntax and to then highlight that syntax correctly and then to render that correctly. That's not a trivial task, right? And it can be very expensive on memory and performance. You have to have the right algorithms in place to do that performantly. It doesn't matter what language. It's Flutter in the browser, without the browser, all the rest of it all works. Now, interestingly enough, if you go look at Dartpad, that's got pretty good syntax highlighted rendering stuff for Dart. There's also Zap, our friends over at Invitae. They've done a great online editor experience as well. Those both perform, as far as I know, very reasonably. Again, performance into the detail that you're looking for, I don't know, but that's normally down to, I think, it's not, again, you can make performance stuff with Flutter, and you can make with or without WASM in the browser. That shouldn't make a difference. I think
this is one of those questions where we have to back up a step and ask, what's the context? What problem are you trying to solve by this? I don't understand. So is this an XY problem where you're asking about one thing, but really you're trying to solve something different? You can fill that in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to follow up with the question. Yeah, feel free to follow up with the question as well, and we'll come back to it. But hopefully, yeah, let's carry on.
Yeah, move on.
All right. I just got into Flutter a few weeks ago. Congratulations!
Yeah.
The smallest Mexican wave. Come on, guys! Come on! Oh no, so it's even smaller. There you go. Right. I'm curious to know the best way of learning it faster.
Learning it faster.
Don't sleep. Don't sleep. Stay up 24 hours. Continue to read everything all the time. I'm doing almost that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's coming from Rando, who doesn't sleep. He just, between Flutter and karaoke, that's all he does.
That's
24/7.
right. One to the other, back and forth. So yes.
I'm posting.
Are you gonna pull up? You're posting the links. Yeah. That's one.
To the highly subjective roadmap to Flutter development, and
I've steered off the edge of that road many times.
Yeah.
And this will get you. This will get you the base
further.
Going from
notice no getx.
But it'll take you through what you need to learn, what you should be kind of like looking at, core design principles, and going through all the different pieces. And it's not just like this image. This image is linked to a repository, and this repo has
at the bottom you've got the links for each of those things.
Then you've kind of got all the content that you should start looking at. There you
go. Yep. I usually share that, and I usually share the flutter.dev/learn as the two places to start from. Yeah. There's plenty of YouTube channels. It really, what it comes down to is what's your fastest way to learn, right? Some people learn better by watching people do it. Some people rather read and learn it that way, and some are more hands-on, right? Just start writing code and figure it out. But those are the two places I usually send people.
Yeah, I have a litany of places that post. That
I was gonna say, Randall's got like a cut and paste that he posts into Discord all the time.
Right. So if I'm or anywhere that I'm at, because if I see it on Reddit or Stack Overflow or whatever, and somebody asks the question, "How do we get started and work my way towards Flutter?" I have a list of about 8 or 9 URLs. It's unfortunately slightly too big to paste in chat. It's just long enough that it doesn't fit, so I won't bother pasting it in chat. But if you just pop on the Discord and if you say "question begin" in the Discord, that's one of the shortcuts. They took my code.
Randall.
What's going on? Right. Don't mention me by name, though. That's a Rule 1 violation.
Oh yes, do not. Yes, we will jump. Yeah. We will jump all over you if you do that in Discord.
Yeah, we have to have rules. Just a few rules.
Yeah, and if you have the means and you like more of a classroom style ish type thing, there's plenty of courses from good ones, some good ones on Udemy and some of the other platforms as well. From
Andrea has some great stuff. Yeah,
Andrea, Robert. There's a bunch of them out there that have some good stuff. So
Robert's in the chat, by the way.
He is in the chat.
He's promoting his work.
He's hanging out.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and spam that, Robert. We trust you. It's good stuff.
He's lurking in the comments there. Yeah.
Right, I think. Right. Yeah. Sorry. I think one of Robert's messages got put into.
Yeah. Sorry, that was my exorcism there. Yeah.
Right. So let's see what else we have here.
What else we got? An IPTV streaming app. Client wants to be on TV. Oh.
Don't we all want to be on TV?
Yeah.
Yay!
How can I switch this new TV platform with the same current? Well, what?
I'm going to tell you the magic thing: web. So all the TVs and all these apps support web. So basically, that's it. You design for Flutter Web, and you build it for Flutter Web, and you deploy it as a essentially as like, it's almost like a, depending on the platform you're on. Like if it's like LG, they have their own kind of app store and things you have to do, and all the different platforms. But essentially, you can ship a web app through those. That's how all these products work. That's how all those TV channel stuff works. It's all web apps.
Yep.
There are exceptions to that, and that is Android TV and so Apple TV. I don't know what they're doing now, if they do any iOS based stuff, but they were originally just doing web based stuff. But Android TV has always supported Android apps. What they're called, lean back experience, and you can ship a Flutter app as an Android product for Android TV based applications, and that's probably a good many of them as well. So, but that's again about how you distribute it to the App Store, on the Play App Store. If you distribute it to the App Store, you have a option to select other platforms. You can choose TV and attach your TV specific piece to that. And in doing, there's all the information on the Android documentation. But in doing that, it means that you'll be found on the store searches on the TVs. And there'll be a Flutter app running on the TV, right?
Cool.
So you got two options.
That sounds fun.
Yep. Sorry for jumping over you there, John. But
no, you get
some similar stuff like this before.
Yeah.
We don't have many questions left in the queue, and we want to get to our live code review and coding perhaps coming up soon. So if you're going to have a question, get it in real soon before we do the cutoff. So
we got two in the queue, I think, because the next two are the same question. He just kind of reworded it with an extra word. So we can skip the next one you got in there, Randall, and go to the one after it, maybe.
Okay. Simon can decide that. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Auto car market. Is
automatic
cars?
No, I think well, this is probably a good place to remind everybody that none of us work for Google, none of us work for Flutter on the Flutter team. So we don't, and none of us have any sort of inside info that we can share.
I like that you said that we can share, because
we can share, because some of us are some of us in the top corner.
Some of us do have NDAs, so we have to be careful.
Do have information, but they can't share it. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, the thing here is, we did mention TV just a minute ago, right? Yeah. So you can already do that. The same goes for watch. In fact, I wrote the Wear library, and you can use Android watches. Yep. You can go do that right now, right? Yep. Also, the car market, Android Auto. What's the iOS one? Car Kit. You can go integrate those into your app, and you can go use those platforms.
Yep.
That's it. You've got support.
As far as officially, like, a way to say, compile a app to run on watch and official, widget, whatever layout support, whatever it would be.
There'll be nothing.
Yeah, no.
There won't be anything in the Flutter team don't want to take any more responsibility for third-party things. Like why, right? Yeah. I think the key here is if you can compile and run your code right now and put all those three, then that's it. They've done their job, right?
Yep.
So if you've got a problem on those platforms, they will want to hear about it, and they will try and fix any bugs you've got. But if you can already distribute to those platforms, and you can already work on those platforms, it's officially supported then, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to find any magical put a widget in and magically makes it car compatible, right? Because frankly, at the platform level, it's a little more complicated than that, right? So you can't just do that. So you have to put in the effort. I do find this. I feel like a lot of developers will just want it to be glue things together and be given stuff. No, you have to work at this stuff, right?
Yep.
So, all right, moving on.
Ooh.
Christian.
Yeah, question.
How to display a wrap/list of chips with a see more button to reveal full list of chips when pressed and collapsed when pressed again. The question is
It's tricky. It's tricky.
I can give you, well, first of all, there's a widget called wrap, right? Yeah. Which literally wraps chips. Yeah. That's literally its first literally implementation was to wrap chips. So that's exactly what you want. It's wrap. And inside that, there's input chip. You can use chip, use material chip. There's
all the different,
different chip classes, right, that you can choose.
Fish and
they
chip.
Can be your fish and chips. They can be like labels. Now, when it comes to the see more, you can actually make the last chip be see more, right? And when you tap on it, it then, so what you do is when you build the widgets up, when you build up to the widgets for your that you want to display for your chips, you would just limit it to the first 10 if your reveal flag is set to false. When you set see more, when you press see more, you do set state, reveal flag is true, and then you have it not limited. And then it will rebuild the screen with all of them.
You need to make it so that when you press that thing, all of a sudden you get the Little Shop of Horror song, Suddenly Seymour.
Seymour, yeah.
Terrible. We could actually have a play if someone.
I feel a karaoke coming on.
If someone is responsible enough to remember this, I could quickly show you this.
We could do a demo,
also, yeah. The nice thing you can also do is wrap the wrap class, in a padding, and then wrap it in a stack, and then you can have like on the bottom right a see more like text, and when you tap on that, it will push down, right? So you can kind of do that kind of thing as well, and then you could have it with an arrow that puts it back up again. But yeah, it's normally about changing the content and then wrapping in like there's a what's the size? Size animation? It's animated size. If you wrap it in an animated size widget, it will automatically kind of open up and collapse when you change the content.
If you want to get really into the weeds, you could go watch Craig's episode of the new Flutter show talking about render boxes and do all the fun stuff of laying out and having the more appear on the line or below, depending on if there's space and all the stuff he talks about in there.
There's a way of tying into the paragraph writing algorithm that you can intercept where it would have put ... and put in your see more chip there. So you basically tell the paragraph rendering to show widgets instead of text, and it should wrap that properly, and you also get the callback when it gets to that last item.
Unless that's
a little weird. I've seen it done, but I don't remember where or even know what the keywords would be to Google it.
All of the ones that do that are actually really dodgy that I've seen. Because no. I tell you why. Because Flutter does not give you the information about the ellipsis.
Right.
And it doesn't even
not
give
publicly.
You
you have to dig in. You basically have to copy a lot of their things.
There's no API that gives you that. It's actually done completely internally inside the framework to actually calculate where you think the ellipsis is going to be. You actually have to get the measurement of the text, and you actually have to lay like this.
Do the layout,
and it just does not make sense the way it's done right now. I've brought this up with them.
I mean, you have to do essentially what Craig was doing in the video, right? Is doing all the render box layout himself, and that way you can calculate the size of the text and the size of the line and how much space you have left. So in this case, he was saying, I think read more or something like that, or it was like when it was last edited, right? Something. So he knew the size of that. And it was, well, will that fit on the line or not? If it won't fit on the line, then I'll put it on the next line at the bottom right.
Yeah,
and
that was a good video.
Doing constant calculation as you're typing in the chat bot. So you'd be doing something like that.
There's actually a nice thing that I did this before with a chip entry, which is actually I think it's on my gist somewhere. Is that you can just do a wrap with an input box inside it. and therefore you're typing into that box, which is just wrapped after the previous chips or something like that. So it looks, and if you put an input deck around the whole thing, it looks just like one big input box, but actually you're typing into like a wrap, and then that fills in the chips as you go, which is kind of nice. And again, it's kind of like here, this is what we're talking about, and I just cover this for the audience, and that is we're talking about like you have this option of combining existing widgets, which is the composable nature of the way that you should do it in Flutter, right? So we're not saying you should not be doing this, right? But the point here is at some point it's detrimental to be using all these really complex behaviors, all these different widgets, when a simple one function of doing your own layout would actually make more sense, right?
Yeah.
And so this is like kind of like the scales that you have to think about, right? So it's always worth exploring custom layouts, so you get that under your belt, and then you can experience it.
Yep. Next.
Right.
Null
Please
safety.
draw a clear line between null safety and sound null safety. Unfortunately, the documentation doesn't do that.
Right about here.
Yeah. I can tell you exactly what this is. Sound means all your code and all of its dependencies, and all of those dependencies, and all those dependencies, and so on. So every bit of code in your entire app is null safe. That makes your app sound null safe, right? But if your code is null safe, but you depend on an unsafe package, one that is not null safe, then you're just a null safe. You're not sound null safe. Does that make clear? So sound basically means all the code base is null safe. So your code and all the dependencies.
Yep. Makes sense.
Anything to add to that?
And in a few weeks, it's going to be very important.
Yes.
So it will.
So
Guessing
a few weeks. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
Is there an event or something coming up that might have some announcements?
There might be, I don't know. Might be something happening in a few weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I think
I don't know.
The clear thing that has been said is that you can go to medium.com/dartlang and look at the previous things, but the Dart Alpha has already said that Dart 3 is going to be sound null safe. It'll only support null safe code, all unsafe,
no legacy,
all unsafe code, all non null safe.
Pre-212,
pre null safety. Yeah.
Any of that will just not stop working. It won't even compile. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. We've mentioned this before. I think a lot in the changelog they said they got rid of the migration tool for null safety.
Yeah. We did.
And I'm like, I get it because you can't compile to anymore, but people are going to want to use that now, right? Those people that haven't migrated yet are going to want to use that.
They only got rid of it before 3. So they only got rid of it after 3. So if what you end up doing is installing 3, then you'll also need to use something like FVM or my new favorite tool, Puro, P-U-R-O. Puro.dev is where you go to get that. I'll put that in the notes. But that way you can have an old legacy Flutter install just hanging around in case you run across some pre old code that should have been fixed 2 years ago, and still be able to migrate with it. So I suggest everybody go install Puro today. And have
I'm not saying there isn't a workaround or something that solves the problem. I just mean that it's just it definitely. I hope they're going to put in the release notes like what to do to go use the migration tool now, basically. Because
that's going to be up to us GDEs to keep telling people how to do that. Apparently, there are things we get saddled with because the documentation doesn't come out of Mountain View in time. I know.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Right. I think
this is in Riverpod context. This is in Riverpod context. So I want to answer this one.
Yeah. Before we jump onto this question, though, we're going to call time on questions because we want to get some. We will get some code in. So get your questions in now. This is your final. This is your final call. Get your questions in. If you've got any questions, Flutter, Dart, program related, and we'll give you a viewpoint on them. Otherwise, we're going to be jumping onto the code review shortly. Anyway,
now, as far as Riverpod goes. Both of these, don't use them anymore. These are legacy Riverpod providers and notifiers. Those existed back in Riverpod 1. They're still supported, but they're no longer getting new features. in the same way that the things that were introduced in Riverpod 2, which is notifier with its provider, async notifier with its provider, and now stream notifier with its provider. Those 6 classes are the only ones you should introduce into new code. And the reason is they have extra features that work well with each other and can work with the generator and can work with the lint and have all the nice, cool tooling. The legacy providers are still supported, but they are not getting any new features. So the notifier takes over everything that change notifier and state notifier were doing completely. It can act like a state notifier. It can act like a change notifier. It actually acts like both at the same time. Really cool stuff, but you got to get away from using the legacy stuff. You got to move to the new notifiers and in all your new code. So that's the answer there. Yeah.
Also,
and the follow-up here. Let's do the follow-up.
Yeah, we'll get to. Hang on. Yeah, I was going to say before we jump off of that, Randall.
Right.
I was going to say that there's also, just to be clear, there is an inbuilt change notifier in Flutter. That's still, you still use that if you want to use that. They're not talking about that. That's not Riverpod. We're talking about specifically about Riverpod change notifier. No. Anyway, go for it, Randall. The follow-up. Go for it.
So it says, so now should we use notifier and async notifier? Yeah, just like I just said. Yep. So notifier, async notifier, and stream notifier with their corresponding providers added to the end of those. But typically you'll be using the generator, because I tell you, yes, you can do it by hand, but it's like trying to do multiplication by repeated addition. You don't want to do it by hand. You want to let the machine take care of it. So use the generators. The generators generate these, and they automatically generate the notifier and provider pair for that. So you don't have to, you only build one and it builds the other, which is really nice and creates the global variable for you and stuff. Yeah, and also, for families, there's so much night and day using the generator instead of using the legacy stuff. So again, look at the modern 6 classes as your primary interface, and you look at using the generator from the get-go. It's so much easier. Look, you're probably using the generator for freezed already. Maybe you're using it for JSON already. So adding one more thing that needs to be generated is not a big deal for most applications that are larger than, say, 15 classes or so. So don't worry about it. It's definitely the right way to go. Yeah.
And there's actually there's another question here related to same person.
That's Riverpod question, but yeah, I can answer that too. Is Riverpod under hood use context? Well, Riverpod in the Flutter environment uses context, but Riverpod also works with pure Dart. There is no context in Dart. Dart doesn't understand that. That's all because of the Flutter framework. But yes, Riverpod communicates from the widgets up to the provider scope, and those are both because of the context chain going up through it. And the provider scope is actually the thing holding the provider container, which is where all your provider values are. So it's kind of like there's a giant map of provider mapped to its current state inside this provider container, inside the provider scope that's at the top of your context tree. Yes.
And the second half of that question, I'll answer by promoting Randall's latest video that he just posted yesterday, because in that he actually does initialize shared preferences at the start of the app and show you how to do that. So watch that.
So I have a 20-minute video. Thank you for promoting that. I was almost going to get there, but you beat me to it. Great. So the point is that yes, there are ways to use Riverpod to trigger all of your async stuff so that it happens cleanly with error checking, with running in parallel. Like you can initialize Firebase at the same time you're picking up shared prefs, and maybe at the same time you're setting up, I forget the name of the package where it's tracking how you go through your apps. But there are things like that, things you do that you would all do in main that are async and require waiting and stuff. You can do that all in parallel if you just make them all providers, async providers, and then use the tool that I showed in my video that I produced yesterday. So I posted a link to my Dart and Flutter channel. Please go there, subscribe, watch the shows, watch all of them. I get more points if you do that. So please watch them all from beginning to end, over and over again, please. And and then maybe someday I'll get monetized. Maybe someday. I'm long ways away from that though. So yeah, long ways away. Okay. I need to be making more cues here. Hold on. Oh no! Do I keep there? No, we're not going to even show that one.
No.
We're not going to do that one. Although there's some loose questions there. Riverpod test. I don't know much about it, so I can't answer that. Amazingly, I don't test. I'm a programmer. I don't do the testing. That's for the QA department. QA takes care of that, right? Not me. I don't write tests. Anyway, I think I'm just wrapping up. I think that's the last question.
Yeah, I'm just getting my environment ready for live coding. So in the meantime,
Riverpod test doesn't look like it's from Remy, so.
Oh, okay. It's no good.
Oh, it's a port. It's a port of Felix's block test. To work with Riverpod providers. I haven't used it, so I couldn't tell you if it's.
Yeah.
It looks like it's pretty comprehensive, but it also.
But I bet it's also made. It was probably made back in the Riverpod 1 days.
Yeah, it looks like it's more. Provider Riverpod 1. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So Riverpod 2 is where it's at, man. So everything that was introduced in 2 is really amazing. And now the lints and the rewrites that you get from the lints. Oh my goodness. It's Remy just is nonstop. And he's rolling out something. What is he rolling out yesterday? Yeah, it's the code just keeps flowing from the entering the Remyverse. It's pretty amazing. So good stuff. Now, have we stalled long enough for Simon yet? Let's see.
It looks like he's still typing away.
Loading. He's still loading things. Can we bring on our guest and have him describe his?
Yes, indeed. Yes, let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
David, come join us on stage. There's David.
You're muted. Say hi to David. Say hi to the groups.
There we go.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Hello. Say hi. Say hi.
Hello.
that's about the briefest hi you could do. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're going to look at, what the code is that we're going to look at and what its purpose is, and how did you come about writing it, and is it for a particular task that you are given, or is it something you're just doing on your own?
So it's basically just me exploring Upright. And so it was for Upright of an internship, which was
nice.
Basically an Upright internship program. But I kind of didn't meet the deadline for submission, so I just decided to just finish it up, just do something.
Cool. I mean, the point here about all these programs is to learn, right? Like you would have gained so much from just doing it. It's not necessarily meeting the. So we've done Flutter Dev Camp, and lots of people don't meet the deadlines. However, it's the journey that people go on, right? That makes the difference, I think.
Indeed. And where are you calling to us from? This is interesting.
From Nigeria.
Nigeria. Awesome. What's the Flutter scene like in Nigeria?
Most of it is usually in Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm not currently in Lagos, Nigeria.
Okay.
Somewhere else.
Ways away. It's not like you're going to the in-person meetups. Right. It's too far away. In-person meetups. Yeah.
Is it Pedro Pascal? No, isn't Pedro the guy who runs Lagos? I don't know. Maybe I get my names mixed up. Ignore me. Anyway, go on.
Were you able to go to the Flutter Forward? Because that's nearby, right? Wasn't that nearby? Flutter Forward? Oh, Kenya. I'm sorry.
Hours away from
American ignorance. I'm sorry. I can't even find the U.S. on the map sometimes. So yeah.
So though, it's still closer than you in America.
Yeah, it's over there somewhere, right? Exactly. Cool. How you doing there, Simon?
Keep going. Keep going.
Okay.
Still
Oh,
voting.
she keeps stalling, right? Yes. So tell us a little more about this app. How is the app designed? Are you using Riverpod? Are you using Provider? Are you using GetX? What are you using?
Well, I'm using Block for
Block.
state management.
Okay. Oh, good. The one I didn't list. Wonderful.
And a little bit of functional programming with FP Dart.
FP Dart. All right. Now you get a win in my category. There we go. That's automatically approved. Yes. How did you find learning about something like FP Dart? How did that change the way you think about your design?
I mean, it just reduced. I mean, the way I see it, it just reduced the amount of code I have to write to kind of handle um, errors or exceptions. I mean, instead of writing full-blown conditional statements,
Yeah.
functional programming with FP that just reduce all those to like for few lines of code. So it just makes code more. I don't know if manageable is the right word to use. Well, something like that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting too as patterns becomes more
Yes,
real.
pattern matching.
Then a lot of stuff is going to change in the way of the design. I mean, even FP Dart internally is probably going to have to get rewritten maximally. And in fact, just as an aside, Sandro, the guy who created FP Dart, has just announced yesterday that he's writing a really good tutorial write-up on patterns and records, and I'm looking forward to seeing it because he's done some great writing so far. So that'll be really influential. I've been wondering why he's been dark on FP Dart, not doing any updates. He's been busy, apparently. So yeah. Let's see. What else can I ask you? So what's the purpose of the app? What does the app do?
The purpose is to explore upright, and all the app
Okay.
does is just simple note taking. So it offers authentication and backup and sync. So
Okay.
yeah, so you authenticate with your login credentials, you create notes, and those informations are like synchronized across devices if you log in
Oh,
on multiple.
cool. And is it synchronized in real time? Are you watching streams to be able to do that?
I didn't really do. I mean, there's still some to dos to be done regarding user experience and all. I didn't really go deep into um, um, handling streams and making everything reactive and all of that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
To
Maybe
like
we can
fetch
look at
live
that.
updates and all that. So a few things are still missing though to make it whole, I would say.
Now, App writes its own stack, right? It has its own database. Is it or is it using Firebase? I don't remember.
They're branded as an alternative to Firebase.
Okay.
So
Okay. So, what's the underlying model? Is it key value store? Is it documents? Or is it SQL?
um,
What's the underlying model?
I don't really have much information about that, but I know they make use of they offer real-time database, which was recently added. I think in their
Okay.
1.2 release. I think a few weeks ago. So usually it's just collections similar to Firebase collections.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. So it's sort of at the level that you're doing queries. It's sort of like querying Firebase then.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, Appright's a good, upstanding organization and is providing, of course, free versions. Now they're making their money by consulting and by hosting, right? So you can host your code with them and scale with them, right? They got to be making their money somehow. It can't all be free.
Yeah, open source. Well, I'm not sure how they do it though.
Oh, okay, yeah, right. As I was doing the Floss Weekly show for 13 years, we ran across many different ways of people making money using open source, and many ways of people pretending it was open source in order to make money. We had a few of those sneak in. Those were scary. It was like we'd get halfway through the show and realize none of this is open source, or my research sometimes failed me. Or the worst ones were the ones where it was open core. So you'd have like some basic functionality that was open source, just so they could check off the open source box. But to do anything useful at all, you had to add their hosting or their proprietary product or something. That's nasty. I realize people got to make money. People got to pay their programmers somehow, but there are some totally open source top to bottom packages that are doing well and actually making people money. So, I mean, I got to say, I don't have any inside information on this, but I got to say, Google ultimately is betting on Dart and Flutter to generate revenue through other sources to make up for it, because they're spending a ton of money on material and on Android and on Flutter. And the only way they can do all that is somehow they make their money. Well, the first time you sign up for Google Cloud, you'll know where they're making their money.
Yes, there is a code review session where we're trying to get there right now.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Things are not working as
fast as we can. Yeah.
We're
filling time. We're filling time answering useful questions. Hey, do you have any Flutter or Dart questions that we could answer immediately? Because you have first priority. You got the hot seat. So, do you have anything you want us to answer?
Kind of had this issue though. I mean, on the app. I didn't want to waste much time trying to like figure out a solution, so I just left it and went on with it. It had to do with navigation bar that uses material 3 design. So for some reason, because I was running on an Android device, the status, the navigation bar rather, the color was not blending with the actual navigation bar widget. And I tried using, I think, annotated region and system Chrome. I mean, I gave it a random color, and somehow the color did change. But using the theme color, like making the color dynamic, adapting to the theme, it wasn't behaving as expected. I have no idea why. So basically, the color was blend.
There's always an issue with getting reactivity to work if you don't have the right wiring going to the right things that need to rebuild. And no matter what state management you're using, there's a way to wire some widget tied to some change. And you have to make sure that's in the proper place in the hierarchy so that everything below it also then repaints. Because especially like a color change, that change has to happen really near the top, because everything's got to respect that at some point. Like if you have the classic example is a theme widget that then also manages light versus dark theme. Has to be really, really far up there. It has to even be something above Material App, because Material App needs to know by the time it gets there, what's my light theme, what's my dark theme right now. And so the hierarchy has to include your change management widget above that. So maybe in your case, you don't have a widget high enough up that's getting rebuilt. And one of the problems is if it's too far down, like if it's inside a scaffold, that's already on one of the specific routed pages rather than being up above the Material App. and you won't get a theme change unless it's above the material app. Does that help clarify anything, or are you already doing all that and I'm just wasting time?
No, I guess it helps.
Okay, good. Yeah. So take a look at what widget's actually rebuilding when the color changes, and make sure it's above the material app, or you're not going to see any impact on the rest of your tree. So yeah, cool.
Thank you.
Cool.
And
Right.
and John was pointing out we had a question that we could answer.
Yeah, we did
could
have
try
one
that,
we can answer.
Yeah. Let's see, where is it? Right there. Is there any Dart 3 equivalent Java record class? Not yet. It's still in the list of things to be looked at, but it is not part of patterns and records. Although with records, you might get away with not needing it as often as you had been. But no, there's no data class yet that's a built-in in the near future. There's I believe data classes. Where's the funnel? Let me get the funnel out here. But there's a Dart funnel that talks about the series of things. Let's see if I Google for Dart funnel. I'm sure I'll get a URL really quickly. There it is. Okay, I'll be pasting that in the chat. Hey, look at it. I'm channeling Simon about Googling and talking at the same time. Wow, look at all these years. It's finally rubbing off on me. So there is the Dart funnel. And you can find the position of any change to Dart somewhere on that map, including ones that have happened a long time ago. So you can see exactly what stage it's in, and data classes is still somewhere over to the left on that chart. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Check that out. But yeah, no, there's no data classes right at the moment, and probably won't be for a little while. Macros is ahead of that. Metaprogramming is ahead of that. There's a couple other minor things that are ahead of that, already being implemented. So yeah, it'll be a little while before we get data classes. But what's great is with generators, we eventually can create data classes on our own that work the way we want them to. And already with build, we can do what we want in terms of creating data classes. Or like my VSC has a plugin that can take a list of final values in a class and generate the appropriate data class elements like constructors and copy with and equals and what's that one? Print string. So those are all kind of handy that way too. So hopefully that answered your question there in the chat room. And we're still stalling while Simon is still loading things up.
I think we're nearly there. I think we're nearly there.
Well, we won't know until you screen share. As soon as you screen share, we know you're ready. So we'll just keep hemming and hawing just a bit more.
I think we're here.
Do it?
I think we're here.
We're ready. All right.
I can stop talking. Good. I can stop talking.
We're going to take this opportunity to say that the call for papers is still open, and it ends this week. It ends actually next Monday, the 1st. So if you want to get a talk in for FlutterCon, now's the time to go. FlutterCon.dev, find the CFP and submit a paper. And that is like to submit, a talk, and also you can get your tickets there if you want to join the conference. Right, let's pitch out the way. Let's move on to screen sharing. Right, let's see if this works. What can go wrong, eh? What can go wrong? Let's see if this comes through. Right, so I've got the project exported out. I've got an instance of AppWrite running, apparently. I need to go figure out what the port is, so bear with me here. And then we can, I guess, follow your setup instructions, because I've never used AppWrite, so this is all fun and games for me. Right, I want Docker.
You're typing, but we're not seeing it. I don't know.
No, I know. I'm doing this on another screen.
He's trying to find a port for the server.
A port is a red wine, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Goes well with a nice steak. Yeah.
That was terrible. That's not good.
It's also
And
where
the way I remember that is because
boats.
port
Yeah.
is also the red light on the left side of a marine vessel or an air
Yeah.
vessel.
Yeah.
Because that's
Where-
what it says. 4 letters port, which is also the port wine is red, so therefore it's a red light.
Yeah.
That's
So
that's
this
how I
goes-
learned it when I was
Yeah.
flying aviation.
I'll share the
270
repository.
hours in the air on the left seat. 270 hours.
I'm going to share the
Small planes.
repository in the chat for those that want
Yeah.
to, I guess, follow along.
Yeah.
And
Thanks.
this is David's code. I just need to port forward. It looks like the default port is not where I expect it to be. So just bear with me a second. I'm going to do some Docker magic on another screen here.
And also, this required builder because my IDE said all of a sudden, oh, there's this. I got a lot of errors. Then I went, oh, because there's also the builder window popped up. All right, use the builder. That's always fun. What are you using builder for? Are you creating? Is it the JSON or?
Freezed. With
Okay.
for 2 things, but majorly for pattern matching with state classes for block. And,
Okay. All right. Cool. Right. Multi-repository provider. Oof. Oof. Oh, right, because block uses provider under the hood.
Yeah.
I'll try not to cringe while I'm looking at this. Given my recent experience with provider, I'm hopefully never having to stare at code like that again, but that's okay. So many awkward things relative to the way Riverpod does it.
The problem here is we can't run the app without AppWrite, right? So I'm stuck. At the trying to set this up.
Maybe
Tech support.
try using I think your IPv4 address of your Wi-Fi. I don't know.
Oh no, I know all that. It's not it. It's more complicated than that, I'm afraid. As life always is.
So we might be stuck just staring at code without being able to run it. So, but that is something we could definitely look at.
Oh, I think I've got something. Hang on.
By the way, to those of you watching right now, you know this is live, right?
Yeah.
For those of you watching on tape, this was live. That's why we have problems, because we're not facing the appropriate direction. In this case, I guess it would be southeast or south for you.
So I'll bring this up. I'm doing the sort of magical AppWrite setup.
Yeah. Wow.
Running locally, I guess. I don't know. Just
command line. How quaint.
I don't know if this is going to actually do what I expect it's going to do. I suspect I'm going to have to do this again. And it's all going to be broken. But
YAML files.
It says running.
Oh, no.
Doesn't say it's ready, but I'm getting nothing on the ports.
Have we, or do you have any firewall up or anything?
Nothing that would cause this.
Okay.
So they say. So they say.
Oh, fun times. This is the bit I was trying to avoid, but we didn't get time before the show.
Well, if you had time 2 or 3 hours ago to do this, but you didn't, it's okay. We just do it live. We do it live.
Okay, it was doing something. Hang on. Let's
Okay.
I broke something that's broken.
Yes, the chat room is confirming that we, in fact, didn't pay the appropriate tribute to the demo gods, apparently.
Okay, I'm gonna try some different ports here, I think, because it does not like that port.
It's port picky. Choose ports wisely. It didn't like that year of ports. Yeah, ports.
Let's see if this works.
The whole idea of a port. when I first started playing with TCP/IP a few decades ago, just the idea that you could talk from one machine to another and all you needed to know was this 32-bit number. No, 64-bit? No, wait, 32?
32-bit, yeah.
4? Yeah, okay. Can't do math in my head. Ow.
My machine.
No, it's not 32-bit. It's 4 bytes. No, yeah. Oh, 4 times 8? Yes. Okay. 4 hours of sleep, also times 8, would be necessary to solve that equation. 32 bits. Right. There we go. That's why IPv6 is so big, because it's 128 bits, right? Isn't it? Yeah. Enough to enumerate every electron in the universe with its own IP address or something. Or is it grains of sand on the Earth? There's some number that the number of bits in IPv6 maps into that's some scale that makes sense. I bet Bard knows. We could ask Bard.
Yeah.
Bard, what's a convenient human scale for the number of bits represented by IPv6? That'd be a good challenge for it. Dash plushies are rare. You have to be appropriately geekly qualified for them. Of course, Simon is quadruply qualified there, apparently. Where's your plushie, John?
It's sitting back behind me there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, it is back there. Cool. See,
Sorry,
that's how you get to be on this show. You have your own plushie. Yep.
We're having Docker fun right now.
Docker fun. We should have watched the Docker show first, and then we could have come to our show. That would have been cool. How else can we fill in time? Let's see what else is going on. Oh, we had John. You had 2 other things that were.
Oh yeah. Simon already showed the one with the FlutterCon call for papers, but Google I/O is the event that we were talking about at the beginning of the stream.
Yeah.
So I threw a link in there. You could throw that in. That's happening May 10th, I think it starts. So just a short time away.
Yeah.
Not quite 2 weeks. About 2 weeks away from FlutterCon.
Yep. Register, watch it online. There's going to be online streamings and afterward streamings, as there typically is. There's so much content they can't put it all on the live show. So I'm sure there will be. I'm guessing based on
usually
past IOs.
Yeah.
Way more. Okay, 10 to the. Oh, there we go. Look at that. 10 to the 80 atoms. Oh, here, let me put that up. It might as well be in this show since we have nothing else to show at this point. Okay, 10 to the 80. How's 10 to the 80 compare to? Oh, you still have like on 3. Oh, this one here. This is the one that's got the no. Yeah. Every atom in the universe. Of what universe? The observable universe? I never understood what they mean because it's constantly expanding into what? I still don't understand either.
I think
what is
he's
it
talking about the MCU.
into?
He's talking about the Marvel universe. Yeah.
Or the Remy universe or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand what is it the same atoms expanding out? Are they getting further apart? I don't understand anything about cosmic scale. I watched very carefully. I watched who was the guy that did the Cosmos series? Sagan. I watched Sagan. I watched Neil deGrasse Tyson. They're all trying to explain this to me, and I don't understand what's actually expanding. It doesn't make any sense to me still. And how do they know it's expanding? And then how do they know there's so much dark matter if they can't measure it? I don't understand any of this stuff. Maybe I'll have ChatGPT explain it to me. Don't worry.
I can share my screen while I'm doing this. This is basic. I'm having fun.
Okay.
I need to. There's no nice way I can remember to kill all the bloody containers that it's
Kill
lovely.
the wabbit, kill the wabbit.
I'm just going through
kill
manually.
the wabbit. Yeah. Yep.
Because I don't have the compose script locally, so I can't. It's just annoying. I have a feeling that this might not even work the second time. If it doesn't, well, we'll just have to look through the Flutter code without upright, I guess. Otherwise,
Are you trying to close all the running images?
Yeah.
And yeah, Doppler effect. Okay, sure. But what if it's just some property of space that as it goes out further, it bends light more? Come on. You can't blame it all on the Doppler effect. I'm going to be showing my physical world ignorance at this point. Indeed. Did I learn anything from all these cruises I went on when these physicists were talking about this? Apparently not. I did learn what's in a Wang Wang drink, though. Completely different thing about a cruise ship. Oh, it's like 8 liquors. It's really scary.
Oh.
The drink of choice on Holland America cruise ships.
Oh, is that before or after you start doing your karaoke?
Usually a couple hours before. It was the lead into that. Yes.
Yeah.
I was winning karaoke contests on cruise ships often enough that I started having the judges disable me or disqualify me after the second round. And then all the other people said, "You were better than us. How come you're not going on?" I said, "I don't know." Well, it's because I told them to do that. Because it was like my 47th cruise, and it was their first cruise. And it's like, why should I win something that I have 5 of them at home? You know, it's like, screw it. I was being a nice guy back then.
We'll see if this spins something up. Otherwise,
spin. We're thinking the spin word. Spin.
Port is already allocated.
Oh no! Wait 30 seconds. Try it again.
000.
Wasn't that the Enterprise destruct code?
See, this is where I got to before, and it was just trying to run it again with the stall.
Yeah.
If it fast start up. Let's just give it. I guess give. Oh, hello.
Oh, default 8080. Everybody connect to his machine 8080 right now. There's the address right there. 192.168. Oh.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
That's not going to work.
If you don't know, that's not going to work.
For those who don't recognize that number, it's the same kind of thing as 10 dot number. It's a local only address. It does not get routed on the internet.
Yes, I was having
Upright
a nice
installed
discussion.
successfully.
Oh,
Does that mean it worked? Does that mean it worked? That doesn't necessarily mean it works.
Oh, it's installed. That's step 1.
Yeah, really. You know, the first thing to car racing is you sign in. Look at that. Sign in.
He wants me to, so do I have to make an account then? Is that what this is all about? Now?
David is that. What's next? He's going yes. He's nodding his head yes.
Okay. All right. Well, do that over here, I guess.
Yes, insane live debugging session. Yes, I agree. We're just crazy here. We can do anything we want. It's our show. We just hope we're entertaining enough for y'all to come back.
All right.
That's all.
All right.
166 hours.
So, okay, we're
Let's
getting here.
create your first project.
For those that don't know, this is a Flutter project, but Upright is a backend service and running that locally on my machine so we can test this. And now we're at the point where we have the entire backend service up and running in Docker as a series of containers. That's all these containers running right here. And these all do the various bits of server operations on find it. There you go. So we've got like, executor, work functions, mail, messaging, all that kind of fun stuff. All the stuff that you might see in Firebase is now running locally on my machine in a VM, actually, in a Docker VM.
It could send mail. It could send spam.
Apparently.
Cool.
Let's find
Wow.
out. So where am I going now? So create new project, click create now. Yeah, okay, we're in there now. So do we have to put a name? What do we call this, David? Simple notes app? Yeah. Notes.
That should be your name. That should be like Simon, right?
No, this is the project name.
First
No,
project
name.
Project name. Oh, okay. I can't
project
read.
ID. Simple.
One.
Notes app. Okay.
And this is
So-
your Flutter code running? Is this Flutter now at this point?
No,
No,
this
this
is
is still
AppWrite. This is AppWrite's
AppWrite.
like local interface.
This is like building the project in Google Cloud.
Yeah,
Or
click
in
overview tab,
Firestore.
go down
Yeah.
to integration section, add
Okay.
platform, select Flutter app. Okay, slid it.
Or- basically doing all the-
sorry.
He's doing all the
Safety.
Firebase, the stuff you do in
Yeah.
Firebase to be able to access it from your app.
Right. Okay.
So this is simple. No, it's a simple notes app. Simple notes app.
Do you have to type a password at some point?
We
could-
should have a matching package name, I assume. So let's go find that. It's in here somewhere.
So it's like Google Cloud but local. I think that the answer to that is yes. Yeah. Is it like Google Cloud but local?
There's my first bit of review. And that is let's hide that. Yeah, the first bit of it is com.example. Blah 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 blah. So obviously, this is not a desirable package name for release, but that's fine. It's
Come that example. Oh yeah, that'll fly in the stores.
well, that's okay.
That's gonna work well.
That's already added to our package, and then here's how we connect because of XIP and so on. So we actually want to adjust that in a minute. I will explain in a second how we do that. Blah 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 blah. Next, sure. Take me to dashboard. Okay, so we have that, and then we need to make sure that we enable. What is it? Enable email password authentication. So I assume we do that in here somewhere. Email password is ticked.
Okay.
Yeah, it's enabled. Okay. It's kind of a nice interface, isn't it?
How about optical recognition and eyeball testing?
Retrieve the project ID and set that into. Did you write these up, David, or is this like the default kind of example?
I wrote this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's nice. I'm following it. So this is working. Right?
So far it's working. Yep.
AppWrite project. Okay, so we need AppWrite project ID, and then we need AppWrite endpoint. Okay, as Dart defines, I assume.
Yes.
No, when you're running an Android, you need the IP address of the machine. Yeah, wonderful. Create new database. So databases, create database, and then proceed to retrieve the database ID and say as this in the environment variable. Sure. Yeah. All right. So what ID should we give it? Let's call it database 1.
Ooh.
Database ID and I don't know. Notes database 1. Yeah. All right. So I'm just making notes and I'll bring this over.
Yeah.
Just making some notes of the things that we need to do. So let's go back to the project ID is this one. This is our database ID. The endpoint URL. So, and we need to create a collection. Or note collection ID. So in here, there should be database 1, create collection, notes, collection.
I think we kind of addressed this question.
Yeah,
already
we kind of
about
did.
AppWrite. Yeah, basically it's an alternate stack to Firebase. but
Yeah.
it can be locally hosted as well,
and it's
or it can be
open
scaled.
source,
Yeah.
and it's open
All open
source,
source.
right?
Yeah.
And there's the website address. I'll pop that in the chat. Maybe we should have AppWrite team on here. We should do that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Right. What's the? I was creating a collection, notes collection, notes. Right. So okay. So now we have collection ID. All right. All right. In the newly created collection, go to attributes. I wonder if there's like an import. You can do like an export import thing, right? Because I can't imagine doing this for each time you want to set up makes sense, right? So maybe that's also worth
give
looking
them
into.
Some sort of a JSON or something to set everything up.
Yeah. Maybe there's like an export like database structure or something somewhere. But this is fine. This will get us there. So so first of all, we want a title, size 40, default empty, null.
And to answer this question while Simon's talking to us, the Docker Compose gets you part of the way, but what are you installing with Docker Compose? This is the parts that you're installing. That's what's being created and unique. Yeah.
This is not required. Okay.
Hmm.
And then we want another one.
Don't trust things that aren't required.
2000.
Then why do they ever exist?
That's how we ended up with non-null safety, right?
Yeah.
Not required.
Not requiring a value is
right.
Really a bad idea. Eventually, we figured out.
I don't we want that to be.
See, optional.
I might have can edit this one. Oh, we'll find that. Okay, it should be fine.
Everybody's going to think about that when they have to migrate finally to null safety. And if I had only required a value in the beginning, I wouldn't have this problem today.
If only.
I will gladly pay you on Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Well, it's like Riverpod when it's building an async error class object, which is part of async value. Used to take an optional stack trace, but now requires the stack trace as a non or as a breaking change. And the reason is that if you make it optional, then every place you have to handle it, you have to go, is it here or not? Is it here or not? But you can always get a stack trace, even if you just say stack trace current.
Yep.
And that's actually a useful stack trace. It sort of says, where did I make up the stack trace? Here. You know, which is just as valuable as not having one. Yeah. Yep. So that's why it's now required. So there was an example, a real life example. Well, real life as far as Riverpod goes. That's all magical stuff anyway. But a real life example of making something that's now required that you made optional originally and actually had caused problems. So yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
See, got proof. Go ahead, Simon.
So that's all configured as per the instructions that David laid out there. Thank you, David. So we've got a database now that's got one collection inside it. That's got the fields. That's got the attributes set up for all the appropriate things for notes, and we've got permissions enabled for signed in users, I assume. So I've done that. Now we've done that. What we should be in a position of doing is starting the app up. Now, those that don't know, we're using Dart defines, which allows us to do sort of compile time parameters, and that's what these are here. So if you ever see like string from environment or int from environment, all this from environment on the base types is how you get Dart, how you read Dart defines, and they're const. And that means that you can actually do some really cool things with this. So that means tree shaking when you're compiling Dart code will actually, if you had like a bool from environment, it's a constant value. So you can pass it in at compile time and actually strip whole sections out of your app, things like that. So if you've got like a paid for version, a free version, you have one code base for both and decide which bits of code are actually compiled into the application based on some external flag. So it's very, very awesome, very helpful. So what we're going to do now is we've recorded those things as we went. So we're just going to build up the parameters for run, edit our run configuration, and then we should be good to go. Let's see how this works. I think no. Project ID. So again, these are the ones that I set up. So if you're trying to set this up on your own machine, it's going to change. It's going to be different. have been warned. These are just like, so these, what we're setting up right now, these are very similar to when you create a Firebase application. Pardon me. When you create a Firebase application and then you need to configure your app with your Firebase project ID and things like that, so it knows what to connect to. So this is obviously
Firebase is a little nice. Firebase nicely generates a Dart file that you can import, though. This is doing it through the command line parameters. A little more awkward, but probably just as easy when you get used to it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can, again, this is not app, right? This is how David's designed his app. But you can also make make this constant values in your app, but then they're obviously being committed into a code base. So, if it's open source, like David is, you don't do that, right? So this is the correct approach to doing this with as an open source project, because you don't want to be providing maybe API keys and other crucial things as part of your deployments. Anyway, right. So edit configuration. Let's pop these as the run arguments.
And this is your IDE's control for how it invokes things like Flutter run.
Yep. So now, hopefully, if I debug this, it should compile, and it should find all the right parameters. And
what are you compiling it
it's going to
for?
work. We'll find out.
Is it? Are you building it for desktop, or are you building it for web? Did you build the build? Do you build runner?
This is going to need build runner to run. So for some interesting reason, it's having a problem with some of the generate code, I guess. So I'm guessing David didn't commit the generate code back. Oh no, I did not follow the instructions. This is all my fault.
I found this out the other day. Last night at midnight. Maybe last night at 2 a.m. actually. That's the problem.
I will also mention that I think you should be committing your generate code, because right now I'm using a version of the generator that I've got on my machine that is not the one that you were using when you made the code, meaning that my generator might produce different code, and that might cause issues with compilation. So it's always best to actually commit your generated code. And that way, when you check out a certain commit on your repository, if you build that, you're exactly building what was there when it was previously checked in to the repository. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why you check in your lock file. I mentioned this before on previous. Again, when you commit your lock file, you're doing the same thing. So that the version, when you check out that repository commit, what you're actually getting is exactly what you compiled it with, including all the dependency versions exactly. All right. Sorry, there's a bit of fiddling, a bit of finagling to get this working, but hopefully, cross our fingers. We're going to have. This definitely wouldn't have gone this smooth without these instructions, David. I can take that much. So thanks.
We're waiting on build. What are we waiting on?
I'm still here. Don't worry. The machine's just like.
Oh.
It's like a Gradle daemon.
Yeah.
Give it a second. I'll be back.
It's not 30 minutes of debugging. It's 30 minutes of setting it up.
What's
this is all
debugging the setup?
Yeah, we're debugging the setup finally. Almost.
But also this is a good example. Also to be said that this is a good example of what you have to go through, right? Like you normally when you start a project, you have to set up your development environment for whatever you're working on, right? And once you've got it set up, it's a once-off thing, right? Once you set it up, you have to do that again each time you sort of get the project going. So now that's set up, I can just open up the IDE, press play, and it'll just work, right? Okay, here it is. Look, notes. Yay! All right.
What?
So please sign in.
I don't know.
Go on. Please say
Please sign in with C-Notes. Wow.
Yeah, please sign in C-Notes. So we've got a profile as well, backup and everything, right? So that's where.
Wow. You are not signed in.
So I think, because I've hit the plus, right? Like, so it's saying you're not signed in, so you need to sign in. I think, to be honest, this seems, from my perspective, seems a bit unneeded, right? You must have taken straight to sign in. Also, when the app starts up, it says please sign into your notes. It'd be better if you had and these are just like design things, right? But like just have the sign in here, right? Like you could, since sign in is, what are we using? Anyway, see, I'm clicking this thinking I can sign in, right? And what we're done.
Ooh, skip frames. That's never good.
No, there's no skip frames here. Well, down here. That's for app stuff.
Yeah.
How do I sign in?
Profile, then the sign in text.
All right. So but I'm clicking here. Look, I'm clicking.
Yeah, it should be the whole button. Yeah.
I want to do this, right? I want to do this, and it's not signing in. So that's the other thing. If I click the little circle, is that doing it? Or do I have to click sign in? You have to click the word sign in.
Yeah, that's a bad target for pressing.
You need the targets for any touch target. 48 by 48 dips is considered minimum, or 48 dependence.
Yep.
Independent pixels. So what we're going to do, we're going to make something. We're going to again, David. This is us being critical. This is good feedback for you, right? Don't take this to heart. Like, this is us giving you our professional opinions about this stuff, right? So yeah, looking at this, so we can go in and change some of these things, because that's definitely one I wasn't expecting. I'm assuming that sign in. This is your own sign-in screen, so there should be no reason why you couldn't put that widget inside your notes home screen, right? So as soon as they start up and they're not signed in, that's it. Sign in, fill in the boxes in. You're there. It just works. So that's
or redirect them to that page if they're not logged in.
Yeah, and that's going to say you've got a router, so you can actually redirect. We're gonna sign up with I guess a username and password here. Does it need to be a real email address, or does this all
an email address?
That's
validations there.
Probably one you have to be able to respond to with a confirmation letter.
Give me a second. Let's see what we got.
He's gonna make something up. Yes, we are doing a code review live with the author, right there.
Right there.
That's the author. He has volunteered graciously to let us tear him apart on screen.
Not that bad.
No, tear his code apart. Tear his code apart.
Yes,
not him.
Yes.
The code. You are not your code. Always remember that. Unless you're being paid for your code, then you are your code.
I have my first qualm. It doesn't like my email address. Apparently, it's invalid, but it is definitely a valid email address. So someone's regex.
Using a regex. He's using a regex matching. Oh, you got to use the package email valid. Let me put that in the chat. I even have a standard response to people that are doing this wrong.
It's not Flutter, though. Someone just said. Was that something else? What we're doing is definitely Flutter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, this is the one I recommend. I would post the longer thing that I have that's an automatic response whenever I see this. Whenever I see any regex trying to match an email address, I am immediately, the fur on the back of my neck stands up. And I go into attack mode. Yep. So Wow, now we're getting to the top of the hour, and I have a hard out probably in about 20 minutes. I may not get
hopefully,
to see the end of this.
hopefully I'll get this working in a second.
Okay.
Bear with.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Need some good elevator music for while Simon's focused.
I'm wondering if there's a bug here or not. So we may be stuck in a locked out state, for all I know.
Oh no. That would be something to fix there, David. If he can't get logged in.
I'm trying to log in and it's just sitting there spinning. So does that mean it could be they can't communicate with the maybe that means it can't communicate with the
Docker
container in some fashion. I don't know why that would be the case. I can ping it from the device. Let me just do that quickly. Sometimes this is what you get when you're also running something locally. Just FYI, this is normal. Tragically, this is quite good.
This is why when people bring me on, I say, yeah, it'll be about a day for first day stuff. And they're like, really? I go, yes, I've done this before. It takes a while. Always takes a while.
All right, I'm going to try a different approach here. Bear with.
Okay.
That was on a real device.
What would be some of the strategies to fix or what could we be looking at? I mean, what's your thinking process, Simon, about trying to figure out how to diagnose this, and what alternatives are you considering?
So why this isn't working right now? Yeah. So you have to kind of go have a little bit of experience with networking. Right now, my Docker machine is on a different sub network to my local LAN. And what's happening is on the real device, it's connected to the local LAN subnet. So there's no routing in the router to route the subnet for Docker to my machine on the network. So something I'm not going to set up right now. That is the issue here. You can determine it by just doing a ping on your internal network. If you can't ping an IP address, that's why. But if you're developing on the same local machine, that routing is handled locally by the kernel that's in your machine. So hopefully, if I start up a different device right now, this would be my intention. Bear with me. Yeah, I don't know. Let's just do that. Let's start up a emulator, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, we can connect to that instead. There's no point sharing screen master this because it's just gonna make things slower.
Suspense.
Dun, dun, dun.
The dead air.
Okay, maybe let's bring this. I don't know. We can all wait for an emulator. What fun! There's a button to hide this.
Waiting for an emulator like you. Waiting for an emulator me you. Definitely karaoke overload.
Yeah.
Packages are useful. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel in every project.
Yeah. Somebody's saying that if they see lots of packages in a project, they run away. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But the thing is, it's mainly about the overuse of packages, right? That's what I'd say. The problem here is
if only there was just one package you could use that has everything.
Oh my god, yeah, that would be a solution. No,
That's the other problem at the other end of that scale.
Yeah.
sadly, there's no good solution to that kind of that
No.
underlying issue. It's just
Stop being a programmer. Go do something else. Learn to be a farmer or something. Return to the agrarians that you all are ultimately. Yes.
Right. Let's see how fast things run on.
Entire bub dev in a single package. Yes, that'd be great. The
Include
everything
pub.dev.
package.
Yes.
Everything.pub.
What's Gradle builds up? I suppose stop the screen share.
Okay.
Should have run this as a desktop app. That would have been another option, right?
Yeah.
Right. I think we're back.
Oh, I see an F. I see a photo. Oh, look at that. It's in light mode instead of dark mode. Okay.
That's
cool.
That's interesting. This is material
So
3,
it's not
right?
respecting system, I guess.
Well, maybe it is respecting the system color scheme. I don't know, but I'm not particularly liking that. But can you force like a dark theme on?
You could toggle the theme from the app itself.
Or is there a toggle in the app? Oh, even better.
If you can get logged in.
Oh, you have to be logged in. No, that's the question. Oh, settings.
Settings. Oh, there's settings. Oh, look at that.
Oh, so much better.
That works. That's nice.
There you go.
We have validated a feature of your app works.
Right. I'm gonna.
One. Please note that for the scoreboard. 1. And it only took an hour to validate one feature.
It's not your app. That's just situation, right? Invalid origin. Register your client. That's interesting. As a new Android platform project. Okay, so I know what's going wrong here. So that package name that was inside the project files was not the package name that's been that's elsewhere in the build process. Yes, that's the problem. Okay, so let me. Sorry, to show the screen here. Not that this matters, right? This is overriding that package name, the combo example one, but the combo example name is actually still used inside your project because it's part of the files. So you notice in here you still got like Java, what is it, Kotlin com.example or something. So yeah, you can change them though. You can just rename that. But it does mean that now our project, our Notes app is misregistered. So I'm going to have to work out how I add another Android app, I guess.
Scroll down. Yeah.
Add platform. Here we go. Notes app. Okay, and then we can get rid of this one.
By the way, we've got a new volunteer in the chat saying, I would like to have this happen. I go, okay, yes. And just we're going to say that standing offer. What? Yay!
Yay. So now I can make notes.
Let me finish that. Yes, we are welcoming other people to do this with. So just get a hold of me in all the usual ways.
Oh, I like that.
Check. Green check.
Notes will appear.
Two things that work. 3 things that work.
Well, I thought
notes will appear here.
It did not refresh. So there's one button. That's okay. So the first time I add, let's add title 2 and description 2 here.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff in your trace.
So
I wonder what's going
If
on there.
I don't click on the screen or tap the screen, it stays there, right? So I think there's a timeout that we could put in there,
Should
and
time
then
out.
when
Yeah.
it returns back, it's not refreshing the screen, right? But that's fine. They're minor.
That's
How do
workable.
how do I delete a note? That's
Slide to delete.
right. Well, that's done. That's not obvious. Sliding is yeah. So this action of sliding something is would be a power feature, right? You need to have something visible to the user always for primary actions. Like long press on something is another thing that is great to do to give yourself extra options, but it's not a primary action.
So this is feedback already too. UI
delete.
is actually pretty.
I've deleted I've deleted title 2. Why is it still here? So refresh, auto refresh, it disappears. So this list not refreshing is the other. But these are all just now we found those things. How do we go about correcting them? That's one thing. Let's actually look at the existing code, because I'd say that this is really nice. I have to say that, just we're criticizing it here, don't get me wrong, but the fact that it looks this nice and it's working as well as it is, even for a basic app, that's
I concur. I concur.
So you wanted first of all, you wanted this great color to go behind the navigation at the bottom, didn't you?
Yes.
I'll show you how you do that. And it's when I show you, you might slap yourself in the face. I'm warning you now. So
okay.
So let's have a look here. So this is the entry point. So this is fine. I think I personally prefer to keep main very simple, as simple as you can. So all of this stuff in Run App really shouldn't be here, right? Ideally, right? The app can't. The notes, for example, here you've got these providers. This is fine, but why are they here in main when they can be inside of sample notes app, right? So we need to kind of understand this depends on the theme block, but you can actually wrap that around this. So, and again, current user, read, add, currently user fetched. Again, you can have the block directly accessible in here. Don't know, like I see what you're getting at, I see what the problem is, but it doesn't quite feel. There's a lot here, right? I don't know.
Yeah, that's too much in Run. Too much in Run.
Yeah, and then you got your dependencies being set up this way. This is fine. I did notice that. Well, let's get to it. Let's fix that bug, and then we'll come back and look at the rest. So, what we can do, if we want that to only be something that happens on this screen, then we want to go to that screen, right? So our router, we got a Go router here. Initial location is /notes. Our first /notes route is here, so we're going to the notes screen. That's our starting route. Here we've got our scaffold with a refresh indicator. That's all this here. Custom scroll view, so on and so forth. Now, what we can do, wrap the scaffold in an annotated region. Annotated regions let you annotate a certain part of the UI with anything you like, any data that you like. Well, the platform supports a thing called system UI Chrome something, system UI overlay stuff. That's the one. I know it's there somewhere. And this allows you to define your own navigation colors and everything else. And then when the screen loads, in this case the note screen loads, it will then take this into account. If it overlaps that bottom portion of the area, that's the reason why I'm putting it at the top of the UI that covers the entire screen. But this way, as something animates, let's say you have to take a list and it animates behind like this, you can actually have the status bar change color as items scroll up and down the screen and fun things like that. So in this case, we could probably take there's some default styles like dark, copy with, and then we'll set the status bar background color. I think it's You never remember if it's dark or light, if it's dark background or light foreground or well. So we may have to split that, but the color should remain. So in this case, we have a scaffold refresh indicator. So this bottom navigation, where is that?
Oh, that's in another file called I think bottom navigation schedule.
All right, so it's not actually in. Oh, you've got it in the shell. Okay, there you go. So you've got the shell builder. Okay, I personally would probably put the builder first in for the routes, but whatever, that's fine. Yes, your bottom navigation scaffold is the thing that's achieving that. So that's fine. We'll take it out of the node screen and we'll put it in there. But every screen has that. These screens are being pushed on top. Okay, I see. All right, we'll come back to that. So bottom navigation scaffold is the thing that does the bottom navigation bar buttons. And in here, you don't need a scaffold. There's a lot of scaffolds here. You only need probably one scaffold for the page, I'd say. Yeah, I mean, anyway, we'll come back to that in a second here. Let's and we're only going to import that one thing. So let's go here. Show that. Right, so back to where we were. We want to get that navigation bar color, which I assume is coming from the theme, which I believe is the primary. You're using the color scheme thing, aren't you? What's it called? Well, we'll see. Let's see how this goes. Let's see. So theme primary, probably. All right. So save. No, it's not primary apparently, but it did change color, so that's good. Canvas color is it? I don't remember what the default is. It'd be what is it? Card color, or it's none of these.
I guess it's color scheme.
Is there navigation bar color? There is, isn't there? Navigation bar thing. Navigation bar theme. Color. No. So this is probably material 3, something or other. Do I have to? I have no idea. We're having fun now. Isn't there like a use material 3? I don't know. Where is it getting its color from? Destination items. Oh, wait a minute. This is something else. Is this? Wait a minute. Wait, what? Oh, this is your own widget. No. Oh, it's not a bottom navigation bar. It's a navigation bar. So, okay, sorry, that I'm just so used to seeing bottom navigation bar. All right. So that
missed it by this much.
I don't even know what that would mean in terms of what I was just doing there. If it would be correct or not. Let's have a look and see how where it gets its. Because I don't think it gives us. It just says, yeah, it's controlled by navigation bar theme, but I don't think if you specify what uses default. So I guess we're going to go hunting because I have no idea. Here we go. So it tries to get navigation bar theme of the context. Okay, good to know. Let's grab that. Defaults for context. Okay, so there's the defaults. Surface tint color. That's interesting. I guess that's.
I don't know. It must be a California thing. It just must be a California thing. That's all I can imagine.
But Simon's not in California.
No. I mean the originators of theme data.
Is it because I'm saying data or data or something like that?
No. Just the whole coloring, theming system is impenetrable for mortals and for ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's not. That's why theme extensions exist.
And that's why extensions make it even more flexible and harder to understand. Yeah. Theme data.
Okay, I'm assuming that there is no one set, so it uses defaults, and defaults comes from aha. Not helpful. So apparently, if we use a material 3, then it creates its own material 3 internal thing, which implements this. Background color is color surface. So colors is color scheme. So it gets the color scheme surface. I can't use this because this is private. And this is another thing. Stop making private classes in the framework, please. Please, I want to use this object.
Nope.
Yeah, like this should be obvious, right? There is another way of actually overcoming this without doing it this way, but I'm trying to show you this one. We'll get there. So this is theme, color scheme, surface.
Why don't you just force a color? Just force a red. Who cares?
Right.
Don't make it a theme color. Just force red. It's debug anyway.
Literally
not gonna stay in there.
Annoying me now. Why is it not the same color now?
Nope, there you go. But yeah.
Well, I can change the color, sure. But
it's you're material 3, so material 3 does funky stuff with like shading and stuff, though.
You're going to tell me that it's not a consistent solid color.
There is a color, but if I remember right,
Here's how we solve this. We take this color and we use it as the background for the bar, and we force our own color for both.
Right.
Okay. The wrong color, but you know.
Surface tint.
Yeah.
Background. Surface tint, you think? Let's just try it.
Well, that's what you had before that was showing a different color.
All right, at least let's use that, and then we can always like, hey, look, it's the same color. Yay! Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's terrible brightness.
Right, yeah.
I'm really annoyed now.
Well, what color was there before in for the navigation bar?
I tried all the usual, and it was like, nope, not this time.
Yep.
See, that's primary. So
I hope the home viewers are noticing that
what
it takes
color was
us
David
just
using
as much
before?
frustration. This is just as frustrating for us as it is for y'all.
But what color was David using for the background?
He was letting it
just
default.
get
I
that?
think.
I'm actually making use of flex color scheme. And,
Yeah.
is Flex color scheme doing some magic here that we don't know about? Is that no? Because this widget.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just bear with me. So I've tried all the usual surface. Oh, this is ridiculous. Okay, here's how we solve this. Colors.gray. This is not the solution. This is just going to get me the color I want. Is the question. But then I'm just going to leave it like that for demonstration purposes only. Maybe a bit darker. That's slightly better, I guess. I don't know how bright it was originally. Now I've completely lost. That looks better. All right, we're sticking to that. Right, there you go. So you can set the background color using annotated region. Another way you can actually do this is to you could wrap whatever you've got in a padding with a height coming from the media query. In this case, I'll show you this now. So here you've got media query.
No.
It's all gone wrong. Media.
Not media query.
Not media queries.
Those have their own problems, but we'll just do it. I forget if it's padding and view padding, one of these.
Out of the frying pan into the fire.
Basically, we can say only bottom, whatever the size. So essentially, what we're trying to do is get the height of the bottom. If I wrap this in a say a colored box, with a color.
Somebody's asking what's wrong with media query. Go to the Discord server and type in $MQ and see everything that pops up.
Yeah, and I have my own versions of that as well.
And this is
my shorter version.
And here, there's another extend behind app bar. I think we're not with that. Okay. Let's do what I want. Scaffold has its own set of problems. I'm just going to make this a column for a second, just to get to my point here, just to show you what you can do. I don't want to have to deal with scaffold and its. Yeah, we're just going to hide just to show you that there's this sort of notion of what you can do here. So we can do this. Right. So let's wrap that in expanded. Okay, so basically the content that's on our screen is going to take up the top, and we're going to have a color box at the bottom. Good. Now, if I get my correction on whatever the value is, you should get a. Come on. One time, I'm not going to get the value I want, or some. Really? I've just tried all three. I know it's in there somewhere. Is this
working with colors? Yeah, working with colors is like spaghetti. You just throw it against the wall until
I'm
it
just
sticks,
now
right?
thinking that this might be in another scaffold somewhere that I didn't see. That would be removing the media query size. Yeah, bottom navigation scaffold is being used in the shell route, which is going to be being used in the app thing. Where is it? Main. Yeah, that's another thing, right? I should have been using probably the color scheme, whatever. Well, it should be working, but of course, the time I'm trying to show it is not going to work. Let's get back to the actual code review, right? Let's carry on here. So yeah, I'll put that back to where we got the fixed color for now. Basically, what you can do is you can put your a padding around whatever the content is with the color, and then you can set with System Chrome. Oh, hang on. Something just occurred to me. I just need to check it quickly. And then if it doesn't work on that one, okay. This might explain why it's still not working on this. Because we're going to check it here. System Chrome. Okay, I can't turn this on, but the Chrome set. We're not loading. We want set UI, system mode, system UI mode, edge to edge. I think if you remember rightly. And edge to edge. See if this makes a difference. If not, we'll move on. That doesn't look like it made a difference, does it? Let's just check if I haven't got. Oh, it did. There's an extra gap there. That's what I want. I think navigation. Why is No, navigation bar is doing something fanciful for this now. Let me just play that once more, and otherwise we're gonna. No, it's definitely applying the padding, but I'm not sure why it's not my red color right now.
Oh, the background color in the navigation bar.
Yeah, but I mean that shouldn't be covering up the entire area because the padding should be padding it, right? So if this is a placeholder, I mean I should see, and the child of this is size box, say, height, what, 96? Yeah, see, it's not going behind the bar. Anyway, it is padding it, but it's not going behind the bar. I think this is a combination of our color that we're setting here. Let's just try something briefly here. There we go. So you don't have to set just transparent, but basically the UI is now going behind. So where this red is actually behind the bar. So if I put this system navigation bar back in, there's the navigation bar, and our padding is behind that along the bottom. And in this case, you could actually just render wherever you want there, right? Like you could actually, again, if you had your own navigation bar, you would put the padding inside and then it would go behind. The reason for the gap here is that we know if we're going to use this, we actually need to use media query remove padding, remove view padding. And that stops it from being passed down the tree to the navigation bar, which actually wants to use the padding. So now it doesn't pad inside the view where it shouldn't. In fact, we don't also want the top. Is the top being padded as well?
Yep.
I've got to pop out of here. I'm against a deadline because I have a doctor appointment. So anyway, great stuff. Hope we could do this again. I'm putting out a standing invitation. Anybody who wants to get a hold of me, I'll coordinate it with the team. Should be kind of fun. This actually, I like what we did here so far. This is great.
Yeah,
now we just need another 2 hours to get all these scaffolds fixed.
I can say we might have to find another time to stream where we can actually do some more of this.
Yeah.
As well. But yeah, we're not stopping now. Just Reynolds.
Yeah, I gotta go. All right, bye guys. See you in 166 hours. I'm out of here.
See you, Randall.
Bye.
So, see you, Randall. So yeah, so if I was to literally wrap this, I'll give an example here. If I wrap this in a column, and then instead of putting the padding here, instead we take this height and we say below our bar is a size box of height, whatever that is. And then the child of that is, say, a placeholder. Now what this is going to do, if I get rid of the padding and get rid of the colored box here. Right, so now on the bottom navigation bar, we've got a column with our navigation bar with its view padding removed, and then a size box says we want. Sorry, this is because the by default wants to be the max. Oops. Right, try again. Now you can see the placeholder covers just the area behind the navigation. So that can show you there. You can put whatever content you like there, right? And then, again, this is kind of working in tandem with the fact that we made it transparent and we're using edge to edge. There's a few other things here you can do, but go experiment. So yes, the system UI is the thing that you want to be looking for. For the minute, I think we should just, I guess, put this back to how it was, and that was we just say it looks to me like the system actually works. The navigation bar was actually doing it for us, which was if we say don't remove the bottom, it looked like it was padding itself, which is handy because it means we don't have to. So we say that it should. There you go. So that's actually the navigation bar. So now we can get rid of that color. Finally, we have the same color. There we go, behind the back.
Yay.
So this was removing the padding from the top because we don't want the extra top padding for the status bar down here. And then above it, we were saying it to transparent. I don't think that edge to edge is the other thing here. Now, you only have to call this once. You don't need to put it in build. This can actually be run once when your app starts up. So you can just run this in like wherever you want, like so in main or right here in where your app initializes or something, right? The system UI also can change per screen or whatever widget you have on there. So if you want to, you go to another screen, it's got like a dark box. It will just flip and animate and change for you. So, but yeah, we'll leave it like that. That's one good thing. So that fixes that issue. So the other thing we were talking about, what was the other thing we're going to look into? Do we want to fix bugs? Are we in a bug fixing mood? What do the viewers want? That's what I want to know. Do people want us to like talk about the existing code base and what we can do better, or do you want us to fix bugs along the way? I don't know. I mean, can spend another say half hour, so we want to be picky about this, I guess. So okay, I'm gonna. What can be done? What can be done better? Okay. All right. So let's go look at the code review and auto refreshing data on the list. All right. We're gonna tackle those two things since that's what it's asked for. So what can be done better? So yeah, we did mention about main tidying up main, probably having a separate class for that. You also want to be careful about using interfaces. This whole app theme. I mean, where is this been implemented? So it's been implemented on one class. That is this class here. So in effect, it's not doesn't have any purpose, right? Other than making the code more complicated right now. You follow me, David? So yeah. So don't get me wrong, it's perfectly fine, but like at the end of the day is, you know, why have that, right? So if I remove the theme with color scheme, which is just the normal constructors, so the factory is not needed. So by removing all of that and the need for these overrides, we now have one app theme with this, right? And that can be made costs. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of places where people overuse, probably private because it's only used here. But yeah, it's like you can overuse interfaces if you're not careful, and I think that's kind of what I saw up here. So we're going to take a look at the same sort of issue. I think I saw some implementations somewhere in here. There we go. Create node repository implementation. Yeah, I create node. Is there any other class that implements this interface? Well, it's actually a mixin. No, there isn't, right? So at that point, what is the purpose of this, right? That's where you got to think about this. Also, there should be a mixin. If you're going to implement it, it should be an abstract class, right? In Dart 2. In Dart 3, there's an interface class that isn't. I'm not running right now, but yeah. Anyway, we don't need it. Just don't need them, right? It just adds complexity right now to your code base. If you want to make a version of your code for testing, you can just say, implements this class, and it won't have any of the code from it. It'll just use the interface magically for you. That's one of the nice powers of Dart. So this doesn't need to be an implementation because it is the create node repository, and that kind of goes for all the rest of these, right? Like there's just not a need to have those, right? These interfaces, it just again overcomplicates things, right? Also, it doesn't seem like a lot of code in these classes. I'm right now looking at this going, what is the purpose of this, right? Because there is none that I can see, right? You're just falling on a chord and having more code. Like if there's a purpose to it, great, but there needs to be one, right? Otherwise, you're adding complexity for the sake of complexity. So in this case, the edit note repository depends on this. Edit note repository. I feel like what you probably got here is you've got delete. We've got 2 deletes with that, right? Okay, so yeah, so look, this. Okay, so delete note repository implementation depends on delete note remote service with app, right? Which depends on databases, right? This looks like a pattern that I see that you've got going on here. This, yeah, so we've got, so I'm making it smaller. So we've got delete, edit, fetch, create, right? I think this is a prime example of how we can refactor this slightly to improve this. And that's just improves the code overall. And this is just literally deleting a bunch of code, right? And let me just show you this briefly. So, yeah, so what you've got in a lot of these is just a singular function, right? So what you probably want to do is just break it down into 2 things: note repository and like remote repository or remote service, app write remote service or something, right? So let's do that, right? So let's go to the I don't even know how this is structured. So let's have a quick look here. So we've got, again, probably yes, there's a good example. So see what you're trying to do here with these subdirectories. Again, though, I think you're probably overcomplicating all of this. Like all of this is just, it seems quite overcomplicated right now. So we've got the same things over and over again. So the pattern of do not repeat yourself, this is literally repeating yourself. It's the opposite of what you want to be doing. It's not to say this isn't bad. It's very well structured, very clean code, right? But it's also, you're just making it more complicated than it needs to be. So what we're going to do, we're going to modify this. So we're going to say in our remote service, we're going to have our, let's make a new file. We're going to right service, right? This is big enough for everyone. Remote app write service. That's all this class does. It manages that remote app write service. Okay. So what is it that this needs? Let's try and do this side by side here or something. Let's try this. Right. So we're going to need these 2 consts. Right. Sure. Also come out of the class. And they don't need to be static then. Go into this file. That's fine. Lines. Then when it comes to databases, yes, it's going to depend on the database, as all of them do. So let's bring that in. Now, when we come to delete a note, we just want this function, right? So at the moment, we've just got pretty much a copy of what we just had. Now we're going to delete this note service. Got a create note service, and everything is the same apart from set function. So let's set this function out here, drop it in here. think there's probably also room here to handle these errors in a better way. See what's going wrong. What a way of doing this better as well. But we'll get there. Let's just quickly do this. So it shouldn't take too long. You're right there, John. Got any comments?
No, I've been following along. I've been answering questions on the side. So
that's great. Would you agree with what I'm saying here?
Yeah, definitely. With the whole implementation, repository stuff earlier, some of that gets into, what are you trying to do with your app, right? I mean, if you're trying to build a notes app that potentially could use different backends, then maybe creating implementations and having, that ability to swap the backend out makes sense. Right.
Also, at that point, when you implement that, otherwise you're
right. So I mean, you can argue if you think you might go that way, doing it up front, because you're going to end up doing the work anyway, is okay. But yeah, I mean, that's really the point of doing that, right? Is if you're potentially going to have different backends, right? So the common one has always been stuff like databases or something. Are you going to, support, back in the old days, SQL Server and Oracle and, SQLite or, something like that? Well, then you want an implementation so that you can just, keep the rest of the code, the actual code that's hitting the database out of it and be able to swap out without having to go change code everywhere. But if you know that you're only going to support AppWrite, then why add all the extra code?
So I think, let's get down to where is it? Could you mute your mic, David? Sorry, you get a bit of feedback on the mic. Silence. Sorry, that's good. So yeah, feel free to unmute and talk if you want to talk. You can comment about anything we're doing. I'm not, yeah.
Are you working on fixing the notes fetching so that as you add notes, it automatically is updating the list? Is that where you're at?
Yeah, I'm just going to do that. Yeah. So basically, what I'm just suggesting here is bringing together the service stuff into one. Right, yeah. The required service stuff into one. There's this dummy note service, which is fine, but then that should be separate.
Yeah, and I know we talked about it earlier, but you could do things like have your default route be your sign-in page, and then just have a check there that looks for if the user's already signed in, then navigating it to the notes versus going right to the notes page. Would be an option, or like you had suggested, even putting the sign in right in the notes itself.
The code link is in the chat. This is what we're talking about. Feel free to check it out. So I don't know what license David's put on his code. So did you put a license on your code, David? No. You probably want to add a license to your repository, David, if you want other people to. Just even if it's GPL or Apache or whatever. Right, where was I? So dummy notes. What have I got here? I've got an error here somewhere. Oh, yeah. What's going on?
The comments. Somebody said, they're going to steal all the code for the commit that doesn't have a license and claim it as their own.
Doesn't quite work that way. Yeah. So what we can now do, we've got one class here, which is this AppWrite service, which has all these methods in, right? And there's already similarity between all these that we can also now get rid of, right? So all this repeated code that we can actually say, okay, when you're calling one of its functions, if this error occurs, do this other thing. So we can simplify this even more, right? Let's let me just get rid of it. So what we're going to do is take that class, and now what we can do is where we have all these lovely errors, we're going to put in one service, depends on databases. And then where we have this repository, we're going to go find that now. And I kind of see that in this application, there's kind of two. So a repository, you don't have a repository normally for one for one function, because again, look, you've got all this boilerplate, right? Look, all this boilerplate just for one function, right? It's just, it doesn't seem worth it, right? Instead, what we want to do is, again, do something similar. We've got like a notes repository that deals with notes as a model, right? As a feature of the application. You can make a class notes. Right, there we go. And let's bring it to one side and take a look at what we got. So again, create note. We want this to depend on lots and lots of interfaces. Let's worry about that right now. That one, we're going to have it depend on, in fact, actually, let's bring this over almost wholesale. So what we're going to do, what we're going to do, have this depend on, what was it called? Remote app, right? Now, you can see how if I want to make this a remote service interface, that would make sense, right? Like I've got one interface for all of those things. So this is the same for the minute. And then we're going to go say delete. Here's delete. And create, delete. And edit. Fetch. Have a fetch, create, edit, delete. I think that was all those functions. All those three repositories are going to disappear. So now we've got a singular notes repository with this functionality in. You can see now what we could do in the repository layer is handle those the exceptions. So what you've actually got going on over here is you're saying you're doing your left and right at this level. I would probably, I mean, you can. You're taking your app right exception and converting it into specific failures. I'd probably go as far as to say probably having this still throw instead of doing your either, and then have the either at the repository level. So actually having it in here, just doing your try catch at this level. Or even better, you could make that more generic. We'll have a look at that in a second. But let's make this app work again. Now we've made this code change. So repository, let's go about, where was it? Our notes repository. Drop that into here. Service, it's a dependency. In the fetching needed. This isn't needed. Now we just have these two. Now, if we were to do the same thing for the accounts, then you could just have like an authentication, remote auth or auth repository, right? And that would also work with the remote app write service. So you've got your service layer, which is what the service that you're dealing with. In this case, app write. Then you've got your repository for notes and for authentication, the two main features of the application. So now we've got this. We've obviously created errors. We should have some. Let's bring up the Dart analysis. Yep. So we've got all these lovely things. We'll just quickly fix these up. So this is just. Again, like we've got a block for creation. And that might not be the most thing to do here. What is this? Oh, that's someone else's project. Whoops. Package. And when your app starts up, you've got like a lot of these block providers, right? For, again, I see what you're doing here with the architecture. This is always where people get confused with apps, building apps like, what's going on here? Let's come back. Right. Got rid of the errors. So I should go to hot restart. It says and it fails because yeah. Oh, let's just get rid of that. Right. Cool. So after a little bit of refactoring, it all works exactly the same. So yeah. So this blah 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 blah. Save. We have this tick. It doesn't refresh. Do we need to pull to refresh? Yeah. So we can. So the first. I think we've identified that first one. I think the second one we want to just identify is that auto refresh. So again, like you can see that cleaning up the authentication, you end up with just one of each, but we'll leave them for the time being. Oops. So what was it? It was yeah, again, like these blocks, like again, what are these blocks actually providing, right? Because honestly, I'm not seeing any benefit right now to
having them separated. Yeah.
To having all these blocks separated with a delete note event and a delete note. Not at this level, right? I see what you're trying to do with the app, I can see how like you might have like an auth block and then auth events like signed in, signed out, signing in, that kind of thing.
And like a notes block, yeah.
Yeah, and a notes block. But you're calling one feature here, one function. You can actually have that state like, again, it all depends on like, for example, you don't want to be, if when you delete a note in this case, you want to see that progress, right? You want to get that progress. Maybe you want to show that on the screen, but that is not just, it's not just, what's the word? Fetch. You don't want to be doing a fetch whilst you're doing a delete, right? These are all part and parcel of the same flow. So you probably want those events to be in one block. So that way you can say, oh, it's currently doing stuff with the server. You can't be fetching whilst deleting, or you can't be doing this and that. But you can make these decisions based on your app. It really does depend. Let's have a look here. So the next thing, auto refreshing. Let's get back to that. So sample app, where are we? And this goes into the router, and I'm just going to follow this down because I don't know the code base that well. So this is our router. We have our notes screen, which is the list. And then that list is going to, we've got notes detail, edit.
Yeah. So note screen must be where we're loading the notes in.
Yep.
Right.
And this is using our fetch notes. So there's our kind of first problem, right? So fetch is specifically saying the home screen should fetch the notes, right? It's calling that fetch action. What you don't actually want to do is you want to say load notes. I know there's a very slight interaction here, but if you had them cached when the app starts up, you could just immediately show them. You're not trying to fetch them from the server, right? So the actual engagement here is about displaying those notes from the repository, right? So there might be something to be said here. So for example, when we go back to that repository level, the reason why it's called a repository is because it normally holds on to things. And then, so in this case, you can have your list of list of note. Right. This is notes, right? So when the app starts up, notes cache, and then when a fetch is taking place, I'm just going to kind of, we'll get this in here, and then and we'll show how it works, right? So for example here, you off, train of thought? Thanks for dropping by. So we'll say final notes fetched, and then we probably, I guess, a note is we have an owner. They have an ID. So look, none of all. So it would initially be null, but we'll be assigned when sending it to the back end. So fetching for note will have a non-null. So we're always guaranteed to have a non-null ID when fetching, which is great. I think what we want to do is convert this to a string note. That way we have the ID. So this is a map of notes ID to notes. It thinks I'm trying to write a note, so it's highlighted it wrong, but whatever. I should check my things here. Right, notes cache. So now we can say for final note in fetched notes cache put, so write it if it doesn't equals node. So that's just like. So that's just because we're not waiting for it. Obviously, either, isn't it? Yes, we can do that. What's the best way of checking that? It's left.
Yep.
I don't know what left is. It's just left the arrow. Either what the default is. Right. So left is the failure. Right is the
So you want right.
This is what I don't like either. Like I'm at.
You don't know which one. Yeah.
I don't particularly use the whole. Don't get me wrong, functional Dart's fine. I just don't see that being effective because this is now is right, hold right, option right, get right. Then so I suppose I get right, and then I need now to see if it does exist. Extract.
Well, what does get right give you? Does it just give you one? Option. It just gives you the value, right?
Yeah, but I don't want to use all this. I'm just trying to do an example. I don't want all this. Option from nullable. Yeah. What's the way to pull out the value from an option? Pure? No. Pure sum B?
No.
I don't remember my FP Dart.
Dot fold.
I have to use fold?
Yeah. And then the first.
Oh god, this is not. I'm just doing this. This is how we solve this right now. I'm not like this. The whole point of having an exception is that you can throw it, right? Like this should just be a list of nodes. There you go. And then future of list node. And that's what we return. Nice and simple. This is what we're doing at the service level. You can do it underneath that, sure, right? And then like we got here, like if there's not a message, an error code fetching notes.
Just throw the exception.
Yeah, that's what it's going to do. But I'm just trying to like understand here. So we got this, and there's a lot of these things kind of like floating around, right, for the failure stuff. And we're just going to let this throw. I mean, if it's any exception, these are treated the same. So it doesn't matter if it's an outright exception or not. So we're just going to have it throw. This is just plain services, plain and basic. What we can do with this, I'll take this out here. We'll keep it, right? Because we're just moving it around. We'll keep this nice and simple on fetch service layer, and then on the notes layer, we can do our try catching here. And we can pull it out. Fine. Right. Now I can just do this, which is why I want to do the first place. Mute again. Sorry, David. That noise is just really annoying. I don't know what it is. All right, yeah. So this is another thing. Let's do this to say an error code was fetching notes. If I guess it depends on what you want to do logging, right? So if it was my system, I'd probably be doing the logging here, passing a logger into the repository, and then here I want to log the error and stack trace, right? So like here, fix me log error stack trace, right, to server, right? And then here, when it comes to going to the user, you want to give them a nice friendly error message, right? Like as you've done here, an error code whilst fetching. And then it does. We don't care about the stack trace, right? Like it's just like what you want to send back to the user, perhaps, or it's just an exception. And then on the front end, when you call this function, it goes, oh, an exception occurred. Then show this nice error message in their local language, right? So the UI is kept on the UI bit, the repository layer is kept on the repository layer, and the service kept on the service layer. So we're keeping these sort of boundaries. Flutter lacks environment capabilities. No, it doesn't. Nope.
Right. Yeah.
Environment's a machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it depends on what you mean by environment. I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll let you carry on with that conversation. All right. So anyway, let's get back to this. So okay. So this is good. So now what's going to happen is when we fetch, we return that down. And then what we can now do is say when we create a node, we actually fetch is not really what I want here. What I actually want, I'll show you what I'm gonna do. Is have notes. Yeah. Let's do that. Do we have Rx Dart in here as a dependency? If not, we're gonna add it. I don't see it. We'll just add one more. Why not? One more dependency. No, don't do any. Actually, you know what? I'll do that and then I'll get the version out of here. Of course. So what we can do at RxStart is we give ourselves a, we can use a stream controller, don't get me wrong, I just can't be hassle with the extra boilerplate. So this we can have here as a notes, subject. And we'll create this as a behavior subject. Then we see it like oh yeah, just like once again, this is territory of type tips. All right.
I'm gonna have to jump off here in a minute, so.
I'm going to quickly finish this a little bit up. And make
You're not going to try and do like a 4 or a 6 or something hour show today? Like,
it's much longer. Yeah. I'm sure David wants to go to sleep soon.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
See.
All right. Well, I will catch the end of the stream later, but I will catch you all next week, if not before, or find me over on Discord.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for joining us.
Yep.
So this passed in the notes. This is created, right? So see what I'm doing here in a second. There's these things just can always be done better in terms of handling. So let's return yeah, again, we want obviously the server layout. I'm just going to change this to future node. unit. Oh, it's a void. Gotcha. Okay. Sure. Create document. Give you the document back. We have a convert documents to notes. So let's take that. So let's say make a function note to note. To me. Yeah. And convert document to note. Then we come to create a note. Add the document back. We're going to convert that to document to note. Right. So create note looks good to me. So we get given the note, the owner ID, fills in the owner ID. I mean, this could be done here. You could do that here, right? Like there's no need to pass unless owner ID. If owner ID is just being filled in the model, then here. It's not the primary driver. Find this. And then create note. Create note, come back. D from when it's created, and then we're going to create. We're going to work a new function in here. Update, or should we say notify? No, let's say update subject. And have a list of notes. Yeah, we'll do that for now. Do you know what? Let's maybe back over here. Let's keep it simple. So when we create a note, we want to update the note cache, and then what we want to get out of this is a new list with the notes from the cache. And back. Bump. If this fails, right, was null. No, it was unit. Create node failure. Right. Okay. So just have a with that. Right. Cool. So now we've done that. Create note. We'll just briefly do the similar for these two because we're here. Well, it's going to take 2 seconds. So we're just going to take out this. Here. Edit note service. Here. New. Oh. And yeah, say copy the cache. And we want to take. Don't know if an edit produces a new ID. I assume it doesn't. Update the existing document ID. Okay, cool. Because then that means that we're going to get a new note back. New note. Note. And again, same thing here. We'll say final note, return, reverts, turn, reverts. Note. So if this is successful, return. Yeah. So that is the service level, right? Keep it nice and simple. And then through level edit, we're going to update the existing note, then delete, similar thing. And if we're successful, we want to remove that from the cache. And so on. Just take that. So let's I'm going to make this unit back as well. See what I finish like that in just a minute. So subject. Okay, so seeing here now is that when we delete the note from the server, it's a successful remove from our cache, and we update the subject and then return successful, right? Same goes for edit, same thing, right? We're editing the current note on the server, we update our local cache, we update our subject and return success. This is the same pattern, very repeated at the moment. And we probably could even make this even smaller code in terms of have the error handling as one separate thing. But there's only a few lines here right now, so this is pretty much okay for an example. So now we have our lovely notes cache. This is just, again, to kind of keep track of that locally. Now the subject is here, so now what we can do is have a getter, and we have a stream of list of notes, our subject stream, and we can also have get a list of note back as our notes, current notes, and that can, we want it to be an unmodifiable list of our note subject's contents. Okay. So you have to modify that list. You have to come through the functions, right, of the repository. And now we can also listen to the stream on the repository and so on. So now we've got that. That sets up our repository. Let's that. All right, back to the UI. Where was I? So our front-end UI has our fetch notes thing. I'm going to just, first of all, where this fetch notes block. So it's just the note screen. Okay, so several places and notes fetched. So I don't know how you've linked up your blocks right now. So I don't really want to sort of spend too much time on this right now. So I'm just going to kind of work around the blocks, but they shouldn't need to be there. So I'm just going to take this repository, and what we're going to do in the notes screen. Again, this is how we make sure your note screen is up to date, right? In here, instead of using that block, we're going to say, actually, we'll bring it down. Instead of padding, yeah, we're going to get rid of normal builder. Oops, normal builder. And talk about error handling and how you do the fetch and deal with that in a minute. This is all perfectly valid stuff for blocks. I just can't deal with the blocks right now. Everyone here right now. Needs to work as an example. So that should be put back in the correct area. What we want to do, say notes repo, chain notes, say. So this list view, once the list of notes directly, we'll go through delete and fetch and all that in a minute. What we can now do is going to use stream builder. If you're going to use a stream builder, always fill in the initial value. Don't fill in the initial value, you're going to have bad days. I prefer my types. You do what you like. It's just taking the place of that right now. We're just going to do that because can snapshot connection state. Not equal connection state. Or snapshot as data. So we're saying if we're not active yet, or I guess we don't care. Just if we don't have data, then we're loading. We could probably change this because we don't have like a empty state truly. So really kind of want to say if it's not got any data yet, then we should be loading, but it's going to come back immediately. That's our whole idea. So you don't really have a loading state. Once it's connecting to the server, we've actually still got like no data on the stream. So, all right, so we're going to change this. We're going to say have data, and then I'm going to change the. Oh, did I get rid of the notes retype? Whoops. What we're going to do is we're going to have this not seeded with a blank list. Start with a null value. So it means that this needs to slightly change. Not ideal. Not ideal. You know what? Actually, I'm going to show you how you do this without a null value. How's that? This is learning. This is learning, right? So we're going to up here find a const empty notes, no notes, invalid notes. There's you can do this whatever you want to put it, right? Invalid notes. This is what you call a sentinel value, right? It's like a placeholder, right? So it's still just a blank list like I had before, but it's not the same as having any blank list. If it's this exact constant blank list, then we know it's invalid. So we're doing this and saying if note subject dot value is equal to this, then we return it. Because then if you can flip this condition, just preference. So now this means on the front end, and this is me kind of doing it, without blocks right now. But in here we can now say it's always going to have data, right? There's always going to be a valid. It's never going to be null, right? So we can just say if snapshot data equal to invalid notes, then we're still loading because it's not loaded yet. However, if we then get back data, it's not invalid notes, then is the data empty? Right? We have a blank array. And if we have a blank array, then we'll return out empty. And otherwise, we have some data, so we want to return back our list. Why is this suggesting it cannot be null? Why is it suggesting it can be null? Oh, yeah, because it's required. That's all that. Right, so we're repeating this several times. So let's just say final equals this. Clear up the meaning And so now what's going to happen is it's going to listen to the stream, and any action that's performed, delete, update, edit, it's going to return back on that stream because the behavior service has been updated, and update this home screen now, right? Because now we're listening to a stream of data. So let's save this, and we're going to hot restart. And if there wasn't an error that I've left in there somewhere, yes. Is this being used elsewhere? Actually, what we're going to do, we're going to pretend this stays loading because I can't deal with issues of course right now. So, is that running? It should be running. No, there we go. Let's load it. Well, one would say this is not working. So let's see. Notice is equal to invalid. Oh yeah, we didn't tell it to fetch. Whoops. Sorry, my bad. So I didn't listen to, because the events aren't the same. We don't do this notes fetched or fetch notes or anything like that. So we're just gonna throw this in here. Again, we're not dealing with error handling right now, so I'm just gonna throw this in here and watch everyone cringe terribly. Yeah, so we're just going to do this, and you can actually access providers. This is on in its state just fine, as long as you set your provider using Riverpod. Like, I'm something I thought I saw provider. Oh, no. Repository provider. Extends provider. And what is magical about this? It's the block pattern. Okay. Hang on. Yeah, we can do that. We can use a repository provider block. Yeah, let's do that. As long as you're not listening for the changes, because it's not going to change. We're not interested in those changes. By default, it's false, apparently. So that's great. So here, we're going to now initialize that fetch. That's going to update our, and we're splitting it unawaited. We start. So now, hopefully, fingers crossed, the app starts up. So we've got our two notes, they're loaded. Great, that worked. So our flow works. And now if I delete one of these, yes. Hey, look, it magically deletes off the screen. And if I go add, and we add one, whatever, save, and we return, hey, look, it's there. Yeah. So that's that working. All right, that was a bit of a distance to get that working, but it's there, it's working. That's the main thing. Yeah, thanks. David, did you find that helpful?
I did.
Good. I know that like this isn't perfect, right? So things like obviously we're not handling the cases right now that fetch, if it does returning an error, it's not going to work. Obviously, I'm just putting this straight to the repository. We ideally want to use a block. So there's other things here, but generally speaking, the pattern works. And if I delete these two items, you'll also see that you have your notes will appear here. So if I restart the application and it loads, it starts in that circular spinner because it's invalid notes as a sentinel value. And then hopefully, I think I told it to load. There we go. Spinner, and then your notes will appear here because it's now empty, right? Like that's this empty view, right? So I don't know what's going on here with the height. I think there's some calculations that are off in how this is being laid out. So it shouldn't appear down here. I'm not gonna. It's probably this somewhere in here. Something's off here. But I'm not gonna. Yeah. Anyway, we could look at layout here actually, but I think we've kind of gone long enough. How people are asking how they can get the edit code. Do you want me to push this up on a? What is this? Do you want me to push this up on your repo as a branch? How do you want to do this?
Yes, I would appreciate that.
All right. Let's stick around after the show and we'll get that sorted out. So for anyone that wants the code, if you go keep, as we was just looking at the edge offset here to see if that would actually change that extra spacing. Funny enough, it's not. I think it's actually something to do with something else. We're not going to go there right now. Leave it for the viewer to have a play around with if you want to. But the idea here, if you add edit no, it's now update on the main screen because of that stream. And there you go. And then we can also tap on that, edit it, see if it changes. Edit. Save. And return back, and it's been updated. So it's all working. All right. I think we're going to end the stream there. Is there any comments anyone has or wants to speak about briefly? If not, we'll wrap it up. And I think we've been going long enough. People just asking to get the code pushed. Yeah, and it will go up shortly. I'll push it straight after we've finished the stream. Cool. Well, no questions. So that's it. We're gonna end here. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see if we can continue on some more live coding stuff next week. All right. Have a good one, and see you then. Thanks, David, for coming on the show. Thanks for letting us play around with your code. Honestly, it's
Thank you very much. I
a lot
really
learn from this, right?
Thank you.
No worries. All right. See you guys next week.
All right.
Bye for now.